Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I really hope you're all having a fantastic day. Today, we're diving into a brand new story, a fanfic called Naruto, The Wind Calamity. It's pretty wild, and I think you're going to love it. Let's get into it.
Chapter 1, Transmigration. Konoha. In the most famous building in Konoha, an old man smoking with a smoking pipe was staring out of the window. Behind him, a table full of papers which needed his signature. Hiruzen Sarutobi, however, continued to stare out of the window at the 4th Hokage's monument. Today was exactly a year since Konoha had to face Nine-Tails' assault. Hiruzen finally let out a sigh. Konoha suffered the most losses of any village in the Third Great Ninja War due to having to fight every village, and merely a year later they had to face another assault which not only killed the 4th Hokage, but also a lot of their ninjas and civilians. This not only increased the burden on him and existing ninjas, but also caused Konoha's orphanage to be overpopulated. Hiruzen sighed again, finally starting his day by getting that damned paperwork done. In one such orphanage, Suzuki Fujin, a 5-year-old orphan, was sound asleep. Suddenly, however, he got up, screaming in pain while holding his head and falling unconscious. The scream woke up his fellow orphans, who alerted the caretaker. A few hours later, Suzuki Fujin woke up, but still under intense headache, thinking, damn, what the heck's up with this headache? While I did stay up late last night working on that project, I haven't ever suffered such a headache. And it feels like memory is all jumbled up. Slowly he opened his eyes and looked around. Frowning upon noticing the unfamiliar surrounding, what is this? Where am I? This ain't my room. He tried getting up but suddenly noticed, why am I so much smaller? Did I somehow return to the past? However, his thoughts were broken by 2 kids walking into the room. They suddenly ran towards him and one asked, Fujin, are you all right? Whereas the other one asked, why did you yell? Fujin saw them too, thinking, who are these 2? Wait, I think I know them. But how? Damn, this headache is unbearable. And I need to get my thoughts sorted out somehow. With that, Fujin pretended to fall unconscious again, trying to make some sense out of the situation. The 2 kids, however, got worried and ran back to the caretaker. While he pretended to be asleep, he started to gain access to new memories. Memories of Suzuki Fujin. It took 5 hours of gaining clarity and insufferable headache and disbelief for him to understand. Fuck, I transmigrated. And into the fucking Naruto world of all places. But how? I don't even remember dying. Don't you need to die in order to transmigrate? And damn, transmigrated from that safe world with rules and regulations into this deadly world full of cunning and powerful ninjas. And I got transmigrated into a fucking civilian off all people. After a few minutes of disbelief and ranting, he finally calmed down and decided to understand and plan his future. He thought, alright, I guess I'll be known as Suzuki Fujin from now on. Unlucky fellow to lose his life by someone transmigrating into him. I wonder how that even works. Anyways, I got a lot of information from his memories. His parents seemed to have died in Kurama's rampage and he was incredibly lucky to live. And damn, after being admitted into the orphanage, he was examined by Root to see if he can be taken in. Lucky me that they didn't choose him. Since Kurama's attack took place a year ago and since he is 5 years old, it seems I'm 4 years older than Naruto and his generation. Alright, that gives me more time to train and gain power. The Uchiha massacre should occur after around 7 years, Konoha Crush after 12 years and Pain's attack and 4th Great Ninja War after 16 years. Wait, what's this feeling? At that moment he felt a weird energy flowing through him. He thought, is this chakra? His memories didn't have anything related to chakra. So does it mean that chakra was unlocked when I transmigrated into him? Finally some good news. With this, getting into the Ninja Academy should be easier than other civilians. Though I wonder, how does my chakra level compare to chakra level of others? Anyways, probably better to get a look at the surroundings first to understand more of this place. With that, he finally stopped pretending to be asleep and woke up. Chapter 2, Orphanage. After getting up, he could see that it was already evening. The clock showed that it was 6:30 p.m. He also noticed that he was incredibly hungry. He thought, I haven't eaten anything all day, no wonder I'm so hungry. I need to grab something to eat. I also need to act as a kid. I hope no one notices any changes in me. He walked to the door and heard a couple of noises outside. On opening it, he saw those 2 kids playing with each other. He recalled that their names were Sakai Aichi and Aoki Daisuke. Both were good friends with Fujin and also shared the room. Aichi had lost his parents in the Kurama assault too, whereas Daisuke had lost his during the Third Great Ninja War. Looking at Fujin, their faces showed concern and quickly ran to him. Daisuke asked, "Fujin, what happened? Are you fine now?" Nodding his head, Fujin confirmed, "Yeah, I'm fine now. Sorry about before. Had a terrible headache." Aichi said, "Oh, that's a relief. We were worried about you." Right at that moment, a growling sound was heard, and all three kids looked towards Fujin's stomach. Fujin looked embarrassed and said while rubbing the back of his head, "Guess I'm very hungry," and Aichi remarked, "Figures, you've been sleeping all day." Daisuke then put his arm around Fujin and said, "Well, let's go to the mess and see if there's anything there." All three kids started to make their way to the mess. On the way, quite a few kids gave Fujin a curious look. A couple of them also asked how he is doing now. Fujin analyzed, "I guess they all heard about me screaming and falling unconscious." Fujin recalled from his memories that there are over 250 orphans in this orphanage. Fujin wondered, "I wonder if Naruto is in this orphanage too." On reaching the mess, we saw the caretaker. Her name was Saya. She was a middle-aged woman and also very friendly. Upon seeing Fujin, she quickly approached him and inquired about his health. Upon hearing that he was all right, she felt relieved. She informed Fujin, "We were very worried about you. We called a doctor to check on you. But he didn't understand what was wrong with you. I'm glad you are fine, but you still have to get checked up once again." Fujin nodded and replied, "Thank you. But right now I am very hungry. Is there anything I could eat?" She nodded and replied, "Yes, the dinner has been prepared. Though there's still some time for dinner to be arranged for everyone, I'll arrange the food for you." Then Saya prepared a plate for Fujin, while Daisuke and Aichi went away to play. Fujin started to eat thinking, "The food's okay. Not very tasty, but it's alright considering that it is an orphanage. It seems that we are given 3 meals here, morning breakfast, lunch and dinner. Also lots of fruits are available to eat. Sadly meat isn't provided here. Still though, nutrition provided here should be alright. So I could probably get some training done without having to worry about food. Anyways, I should fill myself up." After finishing the food, Fujin retired to his room. Falling back into his bed, he started thinking, "Well, what a day. Though it's rather tough to act as a kid, luckily no one noticed any difference in me. It's good that there aren't any ninjas in the orphanage. Guess I need to think what to do now. Now that I'm here, I don't want to be a no-name cannon fodder. And my knowledge about future events also gives me a great edge. So how exactly should I proceed forward?" With that, Fujin started to think about all the possibilities for him and what all he should do. Upon analyzing for half an hour, he finally came to the conclusion, "Alright, though I know the future events, without having enough power, all that knowledge is worthless. Not to mention, there's no guarantee that things will progress exactly as it did in the manga. It had too many plot holes anyways. And providing someone else with this information is a strict no. They'll just throw me to T&I department or in an even worse case to Danzo. It will also change all future events, depriving me of my advantage. So I suppose planning for the future events can be left to the future, and will depend on how much power I have then. Right now the main focus should be on improving my own power. So how to go about it? Well, for now, normal jutsus are out of the question. Normal civilians don't get access to jutsus, so jutsus could only be taken from the academy. And I can only attempt to join the Ninja Academy next year. Even though I know about many jutsus and know what they can do, I don't really remember the hand signs for them. The only jutsu whose hand signs I remember is the shadow clone technique. Sadly, it's a Jounin level technique and dangerous enough to be classified as forbidden. Not to mention, knowing those hand signs itself won't be enough. I guess the hand signs made the chakra move in a particular manner or display some properties which allow those jutsus to be completed. Until I gain that knowledge, attempting hand signs would be rather pointless. That said, I could try jutsus and training that don't require hand signs. Rasengan, elements and chakra control can be trained. Since I have unlocked my chakra control exercises would be crucial to do. Only issue is that I don't want anyone else to watch me doing them. I guess I can try to do leaf concentration over the next year. Tree climbing could attract a lot of attention. And with a village full of ninjas, it's impossible to ensure full privacy. Luckily, the first and second stages of Rasengan training can be done in privacy, so can the first stage of elemental training. Apart from that, I should try to improve my body. Heck, this is probably the most critical. While my physical condition ain't bad, it's not very good either. So I should start with light exercise to build up stamina and power. I wonder if I could do something similar to Master Roshi's training, and it would be incredibly helpful if I can catch Guy's attention. Oh well, let's see what happens tomorrow. Hopefully at least this headache will be gone by tomorrow. With that, Fujin finally went back to sleep. Chapter 3 and the training begins. On waking up the next morning, Fujin looked out of the window to notice that the sky was still dark. He thought, whoa, I woke up really early. Seems like it's just 5 a.m. yet. Oh well, I basically slept the whole day yesterday, little wonder I woke up so soon. Anyways, I suppose I'll have to make a habit of it if I really intend to get strong. On the plus side, the damned headache has finally gone away. He got out of his bed to notice that Aichi and Daisuke are still fast asleep. Not expecting little kids to wake up anytime soon, he freshened up and got out of his room. He then walked out of the orphanage building. The orphanage had a decent-sized playground for the kids towards the north side. Whereas on the east and south sides it had a lot of trees which looked sort of like a mini forest. It seems that Konoha has a lot of such mini forests throughout the village. And many such areas were used as training grounds for ninjas. Luckily or unluckily, there wasn't any such training ground in the vicinity of the orphanage. The western side had residential areas and had a market a few hundred meters away. Fujin thought, the forest could potentially provide me some cover and privacy. While it's probably not the best place, it does provide me with an option to do some secret training. Other than that, I'd also need to see if and when I could have my orphanage room all to myself. Anyways, I suppose I should start with some warm-up and see how much this body can be pushed. Finally ending his train of thoughts, Fujin started to stretch his body in order to loosen up the muscles. After around 10 minutes of stretching, he started to run around the playground. In his estimate, the circumference of the playground was around 100 meters. He was able to complete the initial few rounds with ease, but soon started getting tired. After pushing himself to the limit, he was able to complete 28 rounds around the playground. Taking deep breaths, he thought, wow, I ran nearly 3 kilometers. There's no way I could have ran even a kilometer at 5 years old in my previous life. And I don't recall this guy doing any exercises before I took over his body. I wonder if it's due to the bodies of the people in this world being much stronger, or if me unlocking chakra made the body stronger somehow. I'm guessing it's the former, as I just unlocked chakra yesterday. Alright, I'll take a short break and get back to it. After taking a short 5 minutes break, he continued his exercise by doing push-ups. He managed to do 2 sets of push-ups, each with 12 reps. It was followed by sit-ups, for which he could do 4 sets of 15 rep. Next he did squats and managed to do 3 sets of 12 reps. And lastly he did pull-ups, of which he could only do 8 reps barely. This exercise did push him a lot, but he didn't push them to the limit, as it'd have been detrimental to push the body to its limits suddenly. Done with the exercise, he returned back to the orphanage, had a bath, and put on new clothes. He returned to the room to see that it was 7:30 a.m., and his roommates were still fast asleep. He thought, interesting, I wonder when they wake up and if the time they wake is consistent. If they wake up only at 8 when breakfast is provided, then it could potentially give me the opportunity to practice leaf concentration early morning without letting anyone know. I should observe them for the next week to confirm it. He sat down in his bed and took one of the leaves he had brought up while coming back from his morning exercises. Staring at it, he thought, there are 5 basic natures that can be mastered: fire, wind, lightning, earth, and water. In order to know my nature affinity, I'll need that chakra paper, but either way, all 5 natures can be mastered by every ninja. In the 4th Great Ninja War, Shikamaru had every ninja perform the Earth-style Earth Wall Jutsu. This implies that the most basic jutsus of the 5 natures could be used directly without mastering the element, like how Naruto did. However, it'll be even better if all 5 natures are mastered. That would allow more powerful jutsus of all those elements to be used. Given how proficient Hiruzen was, I guess he had mastered all the 5 natures. I do wonder what my nature affinity is though, as that element would become much easier to master. If I were to choose, my first preference would be lightning. It provides deadly attack, and if I could somehow replicate the way the Raikage use the lightning to boost their speed, power, and defense, then I'd easily reach Kage level in strength. The next preference would probably be water. While I ain't a fan of water nature, Konoha should have the legacy of Tobirama and his water-style jutsus. If access to them is gained, it can allow my power to reach Kage level too. The remaining 3 have their issues. While wind style is very deadly and versatile, there isn't a single Kage-level character who reached that stage thanks to his wind style jutsus. Even those Kazekages weren't wind users. The only one I can remember is Danzo, and he was just ridiculous in that fight against Sasuke. Then again, becoming the first ninja to become Kage level by using wind style sounds fun. Earth style has good jutsus too and is probably the best nature after lightning, but almost none are used by Konoha ninjas, so getting access to them will be tough. While for fire style, though fire style had a few jutsus that seem to be very powerful, but it seems that almost all of them are very easy to dodge. The only top-tier fire jutsu I remember is Amaterasu, which I sadly can't use. Only Madara's majestic flame destroyer seemed deadly and could be used by all, but I'm not sure if it'll be available with Konoha or not and whether a normal ninja could release that huge flame which Madara did. Still, I guess I should be open-minded as there may be many more jutsus here than was shown in Naruto series. Either way, there's not much of an option right now. Of all the 5 natures, I only know the proper training method for wind nature as it was covered properly. The training for remaining natures will just be a wild guess for me. So probably best to delay their training till academy starts. Until then, I'll master the wind nature irrespective of whether it is my affinity or not. Fujin then channeled his chakra and tried to cut the leaf into 2, but the training continued without any success for half an hour, when a bell rang throughout the orphanage. The bell signified that breakfast was available. Aichi and Daisuke woke up as soon as the bell rang. Looking at Fujin sitting on the bed, Daisuke said, "Morning, you woke up early?" Fujin replied, "Morning, I had slept too early, probably that's why." Aichi then said, "Good morning, it's nice to see you ain't screaming today." Following which, both Daisuke and Aichi laughed at Fujin's expense. Fujin showed an embarrassed expression and replied, "Yeah, whatever, I'll head down for breakfast. Make sure you 2 sleepyheads come down before it's all over." On hearing this, both Aichi and Daisuke ran to grab their toothbrush. Over the next week, the same pattern followed. Fujin woke up early, did morning exercises, and noticed his 2 roommates seemed to only wake up when the bell rang. And whenever he had the opportunity, he tried to cut the leaf. He also added practicing punching and kicking in his morning exercises. He noticed that Aichi and Daisuke were mostly out playing with everyone else. So the room was empty most of the time. This was especially true after morning breakfast, around 10 a.m. to noon, and a few hours before dinner, around 4 to 6 p.m. With that information, he finally started practicing the leaf concentration exercise in order to improve his chakra control in that period. Here, a leaf was placed on the forehead, and all his chakra is directed to the leaf, using it as the focal point. Along with improving chakra control, it also aided in improving concentration. Fujin recalled Naruto remembering its importance while mastering Rasengan. Fujin not participating in playing with other kids was suspicious, but thanks to the fact that the orphanage was already overcrowded, no one paid much attention to him. The screaming and falling unconscious event was long forgotten. Only his 2 friends were upset that he didn't play with them much any longer. In order to prevent any more suspicion on him, while doing the leaf concentration exercise, Fujin used to sit on the bed in such a manner that his back faced the door. If anyone abruptly entered the room, he'd instantly stop the exercise and make the leaf isn't visible to anyone entering the room. Luckily for him, there wasn't much interference. Chapter 4, Progress. Over the next 6 months, Fujin followed the same routine. His physical fitness, concentration, and chakra control steadily growing. He also noticed that it also resulted in a significant increase in his chakra reserves. Sadly, with nothing to compare, he had no idea how good or bad his chakra reserves were. On the physical side, he was able to run almost 50 rounds of the playground now. He was able to do 4 sets of push-ups with 12 reps, 5 sets of sit-ups with 20 reps, 5 sets of squats with 15 reps and 4 sets of pull-ups with 8 reps. He noted that it was much easier to improve physically here as compared to the previous world. When it came to wind nature training, it took him 3.5 months to successfully cut 1 leaf, and only after 6 months of nature training, he was finally able to successfully cut the leaf in one go without any issues. While it did take very long, it was understandable due to quite a few factors like Fujin just having unlocked his chakra, with him not having any shadow clones to assist or a great teacher to guide him. As he couldn't cut off a waterfall to complete the next stage, he just tried cutting tougher materials to improve wind nature further. He replaced the leaf with a small piece of wooden twig and then branch which were lying around. One lucky instance happened in the 5th month he was in this ninja world. An old couple visited the orphanage and distributed a lot of water balloons in the orphanage. Such instances used to happen frequently. Fujin guessed that they probably were people who lost their children in either the war or Kurama assault. But this time it was very beneficial for him. Since he was an orphan and didn't have any access to money, it meant that he couldn't go to the market to buy water balloons to begin Rasengan's training. He took the opportunity to get a few water balloons and hit a few. With access to water balloons, he finally began the stage 1 of the Rasengan training. While chakra shape manipulation was tough, recalling the way Naruto popped the balloon, Fujin was able to replicate the way to manipulate his chakra to apply pressure everywhere in just a couple of days. However, he wasn't able to pop the balloon. He thought, I guess my chakra reserves are too low. I should be able to pop it if I can use more chakra. Oh well, no point in worrying about it right now. But it's probably a good idea to keep practicing this as it'll help improve my skill at shape manipulation. A couple of months later, Fujin became 6 years old and eligible to attempt entering the Ninja Academy. The entrance exam for the same was still 2 months away. Upon inquiring further about the entrance exam and its contents, he understood that the entrance exam was rather standard. It was mostly centered around the physical fitness of the candidates, and they inspected their chakra to decide whether the candidate has the potential to be a ninja or not. Fujin was rather confident in clearing both, so he wasn't much worried. He just continued his usual routine, though he added throwing wooden shurikens to his training routine. In the afternoons, he started to go into the mini forest. He marked tree stems and tried to hit it accurately with wooden shurikens. This was done in case they added shuriken throwing to the entrance exam. Sadly, the orphanage didn't have any shurikens to borrow, and being an orphan meant that Fujin had no money to buy them. So the wooden shurikens were made from small branches of trees in the forest by using wind nature to cut them. The carving of wooden shurikens also helped to increase chakra control while using wind nature. Still, the shurikens weren't perfect, but that was the only option he had for now. Fujin also had another idea. He thought, I have all the basics down, so passing the entrance exam shouldn't be much of an issue. However, I wonder if I should start attempting to improve my physical capabilities by aiding them with chakra. I know that chakra could be used to boost speed by concentrating chakra into the legs. Similarly, the power of punches can be increased by gathering chakra in your fists. I need to experiment on whether I could do more push-ups and other exercises if I do them while using chakra to assist those exercises. With those thoughts, Fujin began his experiment. He noticed a significant rise in speed and power when using chakra to perform those activities. However, there were many issues. The first being that it was too inefficient and a lot of chakra was being wasted. The second issue being that it required a lot of chakra, something his current reserves couldn't handle. So Fujin decided to modify his morning exercises. He decided to keep doing what he has been doing so far, but once he was done with it, he repeated his exercise, only this time doing them with the aid of chakra. And this benefited him immensely, increasing his physical capabilities, his ability to use chakra, and also noticed a rise in the speed at which his chakra reserves grew. He began wondering why his chakra reserves suddenly started growing at a faster rate. Upon analyzing, Fujin came to a conclusion. I think that it is rising due to the fact that I've been exhausting my chakra on a daily basis. Each time I do that, it probably increases my chakra reserves slightly. If my analysis is right, then currently I have 2 means to increase my reserves. The first being to increase it with a combination of physical exercise and meditation, and the second method being by exhausting my chakra to its limits over and over. I wonder if there are any other means as well. Chapter 5, Academy Entrance Exam. Around 2 months after Fujin turned 6, the Academy entrance exams were conducted. Waking up early, Fujin freshened up and prepared to leave for the academy. For the first time in 10 months, Fujin hadn't done his morning workout. He waited for Daisuke and Aichi to get ready as they too were planning to participate in the exams. In all, around 7 boys and 2 girls from his orphanage were taking the academy exams this year. They all left together, along with the caretaker Momonosuke from the orphanage. Once they reached the academy, all the kids were surprised at the vast number of children that had gathered to take the exam. A girl named Naomi exclaimed, "What? There are hundreds of participants here." Momonosuke then said, "Probably over 1,000. Last year there were over 1,600 kids attempting the exam." However, only around 330 were selected as all the kids looked at him. Fujin thought, I didn't expect this. So many participants and so many selected? I guess Konoha is trying to fill the void left by deaths during the Third War and Kurama assault. Oh well, it doesn't really affect me in any way. On looking around, Fujin saw some groups within the crowd that wore Konoha headbands. Momonosuke, looking at Fujin, commented, They are trained ninjas from various clans in our village and are probably accompanying their children. Probably all of them will pass the exam. Hearing that, all the kids tensed up a bit. Looking at that, Momonosuke chuckled and attempted to cheer them. But you shouldn't worry so much. Majority participants aren't from clans. So you have a good chance to pass. Just give it your best. The other kids nodded nervously. At that time, someone wearing a Chunin vest approached the crowd and announced to the crowd that exams would begin shortly and all kids were to gather at the training ground behind the academy. After coming to the back of the academy, Fujin's whole group took a look at the Hokage rock, which had the faces of all 4 Hokage carved in it. Everyone was awestruck by it. Fujin thought, while I did see it from a distance, but up close it looks magnificent. I do wonder if it serves a bigger purpose than just something that just looks good. Inside the academy, in a conference room, a few Chunins, most of whom were teachers at the academy, were sitting and discussing the entrance exam. A Chunin then got up and gave a report to the one leading the meeting. Nara Kisho looked at that report and sighed. After Third Great Ninja War, the third Hokage had assigned him to supervise the entrance exams. And he was told to pass as many students as possible as Konoha had lost thousands of ninjas during the war. He was promoted to a special jounin post the war due to his contributions. He sighed again and thought, what a drag. Looking at the report, he found that this year, 2,147 children were participating in the entrance exam. Around 30% more than the previous year. He thought, oh well, first let's just eliminate the physically unfit ones. And gave the assigned Chunin the signal to start the exam. Doi Masashi was the one assigned with the first phase. He announced loudly, everyone, the first phase of the exam will begin. You have to run 5 laps on the path marked in the training ground. Each lap is around 500 m. Everyone will be monitored during this run. I will run in front of you and you will have to follow me. With that he disappeared and appeared on the track. Everyone reached out to where he was. Masashi started running and everyone followed. Fujin thought, well, this seems very simple. I could run this many on the very next day I transmigrated here. And after 10 months of training, yesterday I managed to run over 8 kilometers and could push myself to over 10 kilometers if I used chakra. Everyone completed the first 3 laps, however, slowly a few started dropping out. By the time 5 laps were completed, everyone in Fujin's group, except Fujin himself, were tired. 1 girl and 2 boys couldn't complete the 5 rounds. Masashi announced loudly, all those who couldn't complete the 5 laps are eliminated. They are to return to the front of the academy and can return to your guardians. He continued, among the ones still left you have 2 options. First is to run another 5 laps. If you don't think you can, then return to the front of the training ground and wait there. Many decided to return to the training ground, but a few hundred still continued. In Fujin's group, only Daisuke and another guy, Tatsuya, attempted it. After compiling the data, Nara Kisho noted, 438 participants couldn't complete 5 laps, and only 257 attempted to do the next 5 laps. Among the 257, 241 participants completed the 5 additional laps. The ones who couldn't complete the laps were sent to the group of students waiting in the training ground. For the remaining 241, the same 2 choices were provided again. Only 21 participants decided to attempt another 5 laps. The ones who didn't attempt were sent back and gathered in a different group as compared to others who stopped after only 5 laps. Fujin was now the only one left from the orphanage. Most remaining were from clans. All the 21 were able to complete the additional 5 laps and they were placed together in a different group. Now the training ground was separated into 3 different groups. Fujin was glad that they weren't asked to do 5 more laps, or he may have had to back out. After that, more physical tests were conducted and more participants were eliminated. Nara Kisho noted, all the 21 and 220 participants from the 2 groups passed, but many from the first group were eliminated. Only 636 from first group were still remaining. After the first phase was done, the participants were given a break and provided breakfast. After breakfast, the examiner for the second phase appeared. Fujin noted that he was from the Hyuga clan. He announced, in each of the group, the ones who have unlocked chakra step forward. All except one from Fujin's group moved forward. In all there were almost 100 kids who had unlocked their chakra. Everyone who was from a ninja clan had their chakra unlocked. Fujin sighed in relief as he saw a lot of civilian kids step out too. So him unlocking chakra won't be very eye-catching. The Hyuga activated his Byakugan and examined the chakra of the ones who stepped forward. He had to check for the amount of chakra and its quality. All the 20 from Fujin's group passed. Of the remaining, 64 students were passed too, whereas others were disqualified. Then a few chunins then moved around and helped all the remaining students to unlock their chakra. Fujin was surprised. Wow, I didn't think they'd help everyone unlock their chakra. Konoha must be really desperate. That said, it's obvious that not all of the kids here will pass. So the direct effect of this move will be that there will be a lot of civilians who will have access to chakra. I wonder if these people serve some purpose. And how many more such people exist in Konoha? While the process of unlocking chakra was ongoing, Nara Kisho was observing the situation. Looking at him, the examiner for the second phase, Hyuga Hachiro, walked to him. The Hyuga said, "I'm surprised that the third ordered to have all these kids unlock their chakras." Nara Kisho nodded and replied, "Yeah, he doesn't have much other option. We lost too much in the past few years. In the past couple of years he ordered training of the reserve genins to replace the dead, however even that's not enough. And most of the kids here won't become a ninja, but with chakra enhancing them, they'll help fill many other roles in the future. Honestly, I'm impressed by the efforts the Hokage took in order to ensure that so many kids attempted the exam. Even the capacity of the academy has been increased." Hyuga Hachiro replied, "Yeah, we just need a few years without any major conflict." Kisho dejectedly replied, "Yeah, but these exams are gonna be a pain in the ass till then." Hyuga Hachiro laughed, seeing the Nara's annoyance. The process of unlocking and examining chakra went on for a while. It was evening when it got completed. In all, around 430 kids were passed. Remaining 447 kids failed and were asked to return to their guardians. The ones who passed were gathered together in the training ground. A few kids then saw that an old man with a smoking pipe was walking towards them. Fujin looked to his left. "Oh, finally I'm gonna see someone from the story. To think that the first person I recognized would be Hiruzen himself." Chapter 6, Hokage's Speech and New Home. On seeing the third Hokage, everyone got respectful and serious. Most kids were surprised that he came to meet them. He looked at the kids and smiled gently. He began his speech. "Congratulations to all of you for passing the entrance exams." And took a pause. All the kids were very happy and excited to finally enter the ninja academy. The surrounding chunins asked for silence to be maintained and let Lord Hokage speak. Fujin, however, thought, "Here it is, I guess I'll finally experience his legendary skill of influencing young kids. In my previous life, everyone talked about Naruto's talk no jutsu. But no one ever talked about how Hiruzen influenced Naruto to work hard and risk his life to protect the very people who made his life miserable." The third continued, "Now that you have entered the academy, we'll teach you the ways of a Konoha shinobi. We'll ensure that you guys become full-fledged shinobi of the Hidden Leaf Village. This academy was created by Lord Second Hokage. He himself taught a lot of students in the academy, including me. I still remember the fun and battles we had in the academy. The ninjas who pass out of the academy all ensure that our village stays safe and peaceful. They ensure that you stay protected. And soon it'll be up to you to carry forward that will. The will of fire, as Lord First Hokage used to say. Now you will be the ones who will carry the will of fire in you. Love your village and ensure that your will of fire preserves peace and prosperity. Carry on the will of fire in you brighter than anyone else. And let every other village know that the will of fire still burns brighter than anything else. Have a mind that will not yield, able to endure hard training and work. And be healthy in mind and body. And with that, I welcome you future ninjas to our academy." As soon as the speech ended, the excitement that was bubbling within the kids finally popped and all started celebrating. The day was finally called off and everyone started to return home. After reuniting with his fellow orphans, Fujin found out that only 4 kids passed. Even Aichi failed. Only Fujin, Daisuke, Tatsuya and Naomi passed. Momonosuke comforted the ones who failed, mentioning all the other things they could do when they grow up. And all of us returned to the orphanage. There were still 3 days for the academy to open, however those days were busy for Fujin and the other orphans who passed. The orphans who passed the entrance exam would no longer live in the orphanage. They were provided with a small apartment in the residential areas which would be rent-free until they became a ninja, and would also be provided with a small stipend to support themselves. Fujin thought, "Oh, I didn't know about this. I knew Naruto lived alone later on, but I thought he might have been given special treatment due to his circumstances. I do wonder what the aim is by asking us to live alone. I guess the main advantage I can see is that this way we would be better prepared if we had to go on a solo mission outside the village." After packing up what little clothes he had, he got out of the orphanage and looked back at it. He saw that Daisuke was very sad and even crying as he and Aichi won't be together any longer. Fujin thought, well, it's not really like I developed much relationship with anyone here. Naruto isn't in this orphanage, so there's not really much point in staying here anyways. All 4 orphans were accompanied by the orphanage caretaker to their new apartments. After dropping the other 3 off, Fujin was the last one to reach his apartment. He thought, so this'll be my new home for the next few years. The apartment was properly cleaned and very neat. While the rooms were small, they were more than enough for him. It had a small living room, a bedroom, a very compact kitchen and washroom. There weren't many gadgets in the home apart from a fridge, cooking stove and other stuff needed for cooking. There was also a sofa in the living room and a bed and an alarm clock in the bedroom. He also saw a first aid kit. He thought, oh well, this is pretty neat. The bed's better than the one at the orphanage. Also here I should have much better privacy. So I can use the whole day to train in some way or other. I do wonder what food will be available here. They did say that someone would come here around noon and deliver the food for today as well as the stipend. Anyways, finally getting access to money will be convenient. I ran out of water balloons a month back, so Rasengan training has been on a hold. I need to buy them. Also, I should definitely try Ichiraka ramen. Like heck, anyone who watched Naruto wouldn't want to try it. I also need to fill up the fridge. We won't be provided with breakfast from now on. So I should at least buy some eggs, bread and milk. Ending his train of thoughts, Fujin set up an alarm for 11:30 a.m. and began practicing leaf concentration. At 12:15 p.m., there was a knock on the door. Fujin opened the door to see an academy teacher who was monitoring the exam yesterday. He introduced himself as Adachi Genki and said that he'll be Fujin's class teacher for this year. He asked about whether Fujin was comfortable here and if there were any issues. On confirming that everything was all right, he said, "That's very good to hear. I saw your performance yesterday, you did very good. Keep it up." Fujin replied, "Thanks." After that he provided Fujin with his stipend and then provided him with a few ration bars. Fujin looked at those bars and asked, "What's this, sensei?" Genki smiled and replied, "These are ration bars, you'll consume one for lunch and dinner. There is enough here for a week. From here on though, you'll have to collect the ration bars yourself from the academy on every Sunday." Fujin looked plainly at his sensei as if to say, "Really? Freaking ration bars?" Genki saw the look and said dismissively, "Don't look down on them, kid. That."
Look, if you've actually made it this far into the video and you're still here, come on then, hit subscribe. And honestly, if you think a friend of yours would like this, go on and share it with them. It really helps out. Right, I'm done. I'll get out of your hair now so you can get back to the good stuff. But seriously, stick around till the end. It's well worth it.
The food of ninjas. They were created after doing a lot of research. Even the legendary Sanins, Tsunade and Orochimaru worked on this. They provide a ninja with proper nutrition. So take pride that you are eating food specially made for ninjas. Fujin saw his sensei explaining to him like he would explain to any small kid. In order to not make his sensei suspicious, he acted as a kid, first showing confusion and then being a bit prideful that he's eating food made for ninjas. Genki smiled and took his leave. On his departure, Fujin sighed. He wondered, which moron is responsible for providing food to orphans? Seriously? A ration bar? No wonder all Naruto ate was ramen. Oh well, whatever, it should provide the necessary nutrients and is easy to preserve for a long time. And I definitely need to learn some cooking. No way in hell am I eating ration bars for years. He then counted the stipend given to him. There was 1,000 Ryo provided to him. He thought, well, I know that Rio is the currency here, but I don't know whether this is a lot or not. I just kept training and didn't even ever go to the shopping area near the orphanage. I really need to go out and understand the prices here. I also need to find out the costs of shurikens, kunai, senbon, swords, explosion tags, scrolls, and other important stuff. Though I suppose there's no need to worry about that just yet. The most immediate thing to buy would be chakra paper. He ate a ration bar. While it didn't taste bad, it didn't taste good either. He noted that orphanage food definitely tasted better. After that, he left his apartment, locked his door, and went out. After asking for a bit, he found the marketplace. There he went around checking the price of various stuff. He found out that 1 dozen eggs cost 24 Rio, 1 liter milk cost 9 Rio, and a packet of bread slices cost 5 Rio. 1 kilogram meat cost 60 Rio. Various vegetables and fruits cost in the range of 10 to 20 Rio. He thought, I see, the 1,000 Rio are more than sufficient if used just for this stuff. He looked around and also found a weapon shop. A set of 6 shurikens cost 2,000 Rio, whereas kunai cost 1,000 Rio each. A set of 6 senbon cost 1,000 Rio, and swords were much more expensive, its price varying depending on the quality. He thought, these are expensive. I'd have to save for a long time to afford these. After that, he asked the shopkeeper whether they had chakra papers. The shopkeeper nodded and Fujin bought one for 100 Rio. Finally ending his short trip, he bought a dozen eggs, 1 pack of bread slices, 1 liter milk, a few fruits, 12 water balloons, 3 rubber balls, items for daily use like soap, toothbrush and paste and so on. Excluding the cost of the chakra paper, he spent around 80 Rio on that journey. And he wouldn't have to worry about breakfast for the next few days. On reaching home, he channeled his chakra through the chakra paper. The chakra paper split right through the middle. He sighed, it ain't lightning. Well, whatever, wind is pretty good too. Also, I've already started training in it. Next day, the training continued, but in the evening, after asking a few strangers, he finally reached Ichiraku Ramen. Tucci became the second canon character Fujin saw. He ordered miso ramen, which cost 45 Rio. After eating it, he thought, wow, it tasted delicious. Still though, 45 Rio is pretty expensive for me currently. I won't be able to visit here frequently. Satisfied with the food, he returned back to his home. Chapter 7, Academy starts. Today was the day the academy finally started. Fujin woke at 5 a.m., freshened up, and went through his morning workout. After completing it and having a bath, he ran to the academy. The academy started at 8 a.m. He was assigned to Class 4A on the 4th floor. On entering the class, he saw that quite a few had already arrived. There were over 25 students already in there. He entered and sat on one of the unoccupied benches. He noticed that most of the people in here were from the ninja clans. They wore the crest of their clan on their backs. Fujin wondered, this classroom ain't big, at most 40 would fit in. Does that mean there are over 10 divisions in my year? At 8, Adachi Genki-sensei arrived. He first distributed identity cards to everyone. He then introduced himself. On arriving, he introduced himself, welcome to the academy. I'm Adachi Genki and I'll be your class teacher for this year. How about we get to know each other first? I'll tell you guys more about myself. I'm a chunin of Konoha and fought in the previous Great Ninja War. My hobby is to watch drama and I like to teach young kids like yourself. How about you guys start to introduce yourself? And with that, all the kids started to introduce themselves. The ones from clans telling their clan with pride. Fujin took the opportunity to understand the composition of his class. The class had 30 kids. Apparently there were 2 Uchiha, 3 Hyuga, 2 each from Nara, Yamanaka and Akimichi, 3 Inuzuka, 1 Aburame, 1 each from Sarutobi, Shimura, Kato and Hataki clans and surprisingly 3 from Senju and 2 from Kurama clan. Other 6, including Fujin, were normal civilians. After the students were done talking about themselves, Genki started talking again. He said, alright, first I'll explain to you about your position. This year 430 students passed the entrance exam. However, you 30 are the ones who have scored the highest. That's why everyone has very high expectations of each of you guys. All of you have to strive to become very good and strong shinobi. That's why an elite like me is assigned to your class. In addition, other teachers too would assist you when required. You will also be provided access to the Academy Library's E&D section. Also, there will be special tests conducted for you guys every 6 months, which will be monitored by Lord Hokage himself. So work as hard as you can. Everyone was filled with pride after this speech, and also became a lot more attentive. Fujin thought, lucky me. This seems like an elite classroom. I guess I can have any queries resolved quickly. Also, those 2 sections in the library, I guess they should be sections having rank E and rank D jutsus. I wonder if there are sections with higher ranked jutsus, and whether I can sneak in. Well, I should give it a proper tour soon. Since this was the first day, Genki gave them a tour of the academy. They were shown all the classrooms, the library, training grounds, canteen area. In training grounds, various areas were shown like running track, obstacle race track, shooting area, balancing area which had a lot of poles and so on. There was also a small pond at the far end of the training grounds. After the tour was over, they went back to the class. Genki explained to them what all they'll be learning this year. It seemed to mostly be basics. They were supposed to be taught about chakra, hand signs, chakra control, taijutsu, theory of genjutsu, shuriken throwing along with normal stuff like mathematics, physics, chemistry, biology, language, history, geography, and civics. After that, the class was dismissed for the day. After the class was dismissed, Fujin left quickly and headed towards the library. However, on the way to the library, he ran into Daisuke and Tatsuya. Daisuke called out to him, "Hey Fujin." Fujin turned around to see him. He said, "Hey, how are you doing? How was the class?" Daisuke replied, "It was fun, we took a trip of the whole academy." Fujin replied, "Yeah, so did we. By the way, how many students are there in your class?" Daisuke replied, "Oh? There are 100, ain't that the case in every class?" Tatsuya joined in the conversation saying, "Yup, it is the same in my class." Fujin said, "I see. No, in mine there are only 30 students." Daisuke said, "Huh, why's that?" Not wanting to make him feel bad or having to answer more questions, Fujin said that he wasn't sure. After that, Daisuke asked whether Fujin wanted to go home with them. Fujin excused himself saying he had some work. Separating himself from them, Fujin started to go to the library again. En route he grabbed a ration bar and ate it while thinking, "I see. So my class has just 30 students, whereas others have 100 each. So in all there are 5 divisions. If I were to guess and looking at what all Genki said today, our class is probably being trained in the hopes that everyone either becomes a jounin or at least an elite chunin. Whereas for others, the main target seems to be to boost the Genin reserve and if lucky have a few chunins and jounins from there." On entering the library, he showed his card to the librarian and asked for directions. After getting the info, he understood that the library is divided into 7 sections. It had a general section having non-ninja related information, Section 0 where there was basic information related to ninjas, and Sections E, D, C, B, and A. Sections A, B, and C were restricted for me right now. Fujin thought, "I see, makes sense. There isn't any S section, but that's understandable that they won't put that high-level jutsus out in the open. To be honest, I'm surprised that there is Section A. Anyways, let's go explore it." Fujin skipped the general section and started from Section 0. He skimmed through the titles of various scrolls to get an idea regarding what was here. He found a lot of basic but important stuff. Information related to chakra theories, chakra control, manipulation, nature manipulation, fuinjutsu, genjutsu, taijutsu were all mentioned here. So was a lot of historical information. He then went on to the sections E and D. There most of the scrolls were just rank E and rank D jutsus. He thought, wow, I didn't expect this. There are literally hundreds of different jutsu scrolls here. A lot of wind-style jutsus are available too. And Section E has a scroll called Introduction to Fuinjutsu, whereas Section D has a better book on the same. This would be very helpful. It took him more than a couple of hours to just skim through the titles of various scrolls. After that, he went back to Section 0, grabbed a scroll named Introduction to Hand Signs, and went to an isolated corner and sat there. There were very few people in the library, so there wasn't anyone to disturb him. Fujin thought to himself, "Alright, I have seen through the majority of the stuff. Now that I finally have some resources, I need to do some planning as to what I should do at least for the next couple of years." Chapter 8 Plans. In a corner of the library, a small kid was staring at a scroll he had opened in front of him. However, unknown to anyone who watched him, his mind was working on something else entirely. Fujin thought, "Alright, let's first start with what I can do right now. My chakra control is pretty decent thanks to daily leaf concentration exercise. I should attempt something along the lines of tree climbing soon. My chakra reserve also has been developing consistently thanks to a combination of physical exercises and meditation, and also due to consistently straining my chakra to its limits. My chakra shape manipulation is going well too. Once my chakra level increases more, I should be able to proceed further. So my plans for chakra control, chakra shape manipulation and increasing chakra reserve should be good enough. Though there's no harm in getting more means of increasing my chakra reserves, the most important thing I have in my arsenal is my wind nature manipulation training. I have already completed leaf cutting months back, and though I didn't attempt waterfall cutting, I have progressed further as I can now cut branches with rather ease. This much should be more than enough to perform many wind-style jutsus. And since my own affinity is also wind, it becomes all the more important. That said, I do wonder if I can make my wind nature more potent by trying to cut tougher materials, maybe like a stone next followed by metal. Oh well, I'll experiment later. Anyways, one thing I definitely need to do is learn a bunch of wind-style jutsus. I should read up every rank E and D wind-style jutsus in this library, and try to learn the useful ones over the next year or two. Preferably try to find wind jutsus that would allow me to form a good combat system that can allow me to defend, attack and evade. Apart from this, I also need to learn an additional element. Fire, lightning, earth and water. Which one should I focus on? On analyzing for a few minutes, he thought, alright, lightning and wind isn't really the best combo, so lightning's out for the time being. Fire and water can combine very well with wind, especially fire. But I'll need a shadow clone to use it effectively. And anyways, this is the land of fire, so my teammates are very likely to have this element anyways. That leaves earth. I don't think wind and earth combine, however I can stick to using wind style for offense and earth style for defense. I hope this library has that jutsu which Kakuzu used to harden his body. With that jutsu for defense along with wind style for offense should be a very effective and annoying combination. Alright, I'll choose earth as my second element. And I'll keep working on it for the next few years to master these two elements. Other elements can wait till I'm able to pull off multiple shadow clones successfully. Apart from that, basic justice should be learned as well. Normal clones don't provide much help in combat, but they should at least serve as a base for shadow clones and elemental clones. Transformation has a lot of uses though, from disguise to transforming into weapons. Substitution is the most useful of the three, and something I'll keep using even if I became as strong as the Kage's I've to give special focus to substitution jutsu. Alongside this, I'll also have to learn and master Shunshin, body flicker jutsu. Those two techniques will be vital for evasion and running away. Perhaps more than wind-style jutsus, these two will be more critical to master first. It should become a good combat system. Wind-style jutsus to attack, earth-style jutsus to defend and substitution and body flicker to evade. The next to work on would be taijutsu. My daily morning workout has ensured that my physical capabilities are top tier among the current students. Sadly, I can't grant any more time for it, so I guess I'll have to increase the difficulty of the workout somehow. Perhaps weights or some seals. As for taijutsu, the academy teaches its own taijutsu style. I should check that out before planning further. As for genjutsu, I can't work much on it right now. Let's leave it for the future. That leaves me with kenjutsu, medical ninjutsu, sensing capabilities and fuinjutsu. Medical ninjutsu can wait. Kenjutsu is important for me. I will need to learn how to channel my chakra through weapons and charge it with wind nature. That would make my offense very lethal. However, this can wait for the time being too, as I won't have to fight anything soon. Fuinjutsu is something I can work on now. With the books for basics available, I should see whether it is suited for me or not. Sensing is pretty essential too. I'll probably need the assistance of academy teachers to understand how to become a good sensor. While I haven't tried it yet for safety issues, I believe focusing chakra in the eyes, nose or ears should heighten those senses a lot. However, what I'm more interested in is sensing chakras. That ability should be very helpful when I'm out of the village. So let's see. The academy is open from Monday to Friday with holidays on Saturday and Sunday. And it runs from morning 8 a.m. to afternoon 3 p.m. Mornings are assigned to physical workouts. I get 2.5 hours for it. In the future, practice of taijutsu forms will have to be included here as well. During academy lectures, most training can't really happen. But I wonder if nature transformation can be worked upon. Something like leaf cutting can easily be hidden under the desk. I need to check what's the initial training method for earth nature and see whether it can be done in class. Though I hope that Genki ain't a censor, otherwise he'll catch me and forbid me from doing it. From 3 to 10 p.m. I have time to train. I can eliminate 1 hour from there for traveling and eating and other miscellaneous stuff. That leaves me 6 hours to work on basic jutsus, wind jutsus, weapon throwing, fuinjutsu, sensing chakra, and meditation. Clearly not enough time. So what to do? Annie fell into deep analysis again. After calculating for some time, he came to the conclusion, alright, of all these things, meditation is compulsory to do daily. For others, there are basically 2 options. One is to do these things on different days, and the second is to only focus on a few of these. While the first option sounds tempting, the issue is that with me trying to learn so many different things would cause me to be less focused on everything and might be detrimental for me. For instance, with me practicing so many things, trying to learn 8 inner gates from Guy might be impossible as it requires strict dedication to taijutsu. Fuinjutsu is also a major issue. It should be a very vast concept with a lot of theories to focus on, which will take a lot of time to learn. It's probably for the best to only learn it after I can make shadow clones. Sadly, this would mean I can't make some easy money by making and selling explosion tags or storage scrolls. Among basic jutsus and wind jutsus, for the time being, let's put focus on basic jutsus. Once I have got those down, I'll start to focus on wind-style jutsus.so for the next few months. The time after academy should be spent on mastering those basic jutsus, shuriken and kunai throwing, sensing chakra, and meditation. I currently have no idea as to how to sense chakra. I'll have to dig up theories in the library and consult Genki. That'll also allow me to know whether he is a censor or not. For weapon throwing, let's just wait up until that class is conducted. That way I won't increase any wrong habits I have and correct the form required while throwing them quicker. As for those basic jutsus, I can get them easily from this library. I just have to understand the theories behind hand signs and how to perform them properly. It should be covered in the academy soon, so hopefully it won't be an issue for long. With that, he stopped thinking for a bit and summarized everything he planned. He then thought, alright, this plan seems to be good enough for now. I should get the required knowledge from the academy soon and can always bug all the senseis if I have any queries. I wonder how strong I'll become after a couple of years of this training, he chuckled, finally starting to read the scroll he had taken. Chapter 9, Accumulating Knowledge. Fujin started reading the scroll. After going through the entire scroll, Fujin summarized, I see. The hand signs are similar to those shown in the manga. There are 12 basic hand seals that are mentioned. The hand signs actually help to mold and manipulate the chakra in a particular manner. However, that's only a help. The ninja still has to actively attempt to mold chakra in that manner, he sighed. This will probably take some time to master. Until this is mastered to acceptable levels, practice of hand signs will be done instead of basic jutsu training. To master the hand signs, I'll first have to practice it, while simultaneously having to mold the chakra in the proper way. Then I'll have to try different seals one after another and change the way chakra is molded according to the respective signs. Only after being able to do that will I be able to start attempting any jutsu. Damn, this is gonna be tedious. Anyways, apart from the basic hand signs, there were also a few other hand signs. The scroll mentioned hand signs for all 5 elements and a hand sign for clones. Apparently there were also other hand signs that aren't mentioned here. Oh well, at least the chakra molding part will require proper guidance, so I'll start after it is taught in the academy. And this is just the basics. Later on I'll have to learn one-handed hand signs, reduce the number of hand signs required to perform a jutsu, and learn to perform jutsus without performing any hand sign at all. That I recall quite a few characters were able to do hand signs with only one hand, and many had reduced the number of hand signs required for important jutsus to only one. While he was analyzing the hand signs, his class teacher Genki entered the library and saw him lost in the scroll. He silently sneaked behind Fujin to see what he was reading. Upon noting the content, he smiled a bit and made his presence known. Hello, Fujin. Upon hearing that, Fujin suddenly turned behind to see. When did he appear behind me? How long was he here? Not having any answers, he sighed mentally. I put my guard down. This is the ninja world after all. While he may only be a chunin, he is in a whole different league compared to me right now. Well, I suppose becoming a censor could help me to a great degree in such scenarios. Anyways, time to act as a kid and make a good impression. It'll be helpful if I can get more guidance from him. Though he thought of all that, it only required a couple of seconds. He acted to be a bit nervous and said, "Good afternoon, sensei. When did you come in the library?" Genki laughed and said, "I've been here for a while, kiddo. You were too lost in your scroll. So what's with your interest in hand signs?" Fujin tried to act nervous and said in his childish voice, "I heard that some of my fellow classmates are already able to perform ninjutsu. During the exam, someone was talking about an Uchiha who was able to breath fire when he was only 4. I wanted to learn it too. That's why I began learning about hand signs." Genki was happy that a small kid was showing so much interest and dedication. He tried to comfort the kid by rubbing his hand on his head and explaining, "Ah, that was Uchiha Itachi. He is your senior by a year. And he passed the academy in just a year and became a genin. But don't worry about it, Itachi was an exception. He had already started training from a very young age, and it ain't breathing fire, instead he was using a jutsu called fireball. You'll start using jutsus very soon too. Tomorrow I'll teach you all about hand signs. So you can practice properly tomorrow. Until then, don't try it by yourself. It can cause accidents, okay?" Fujin showed an excited face while nodding and said loudly, "Yes, sensei." However, Genki quickly said, "Why, this is library, keep your voice down." "N, I hope you guys get the meme, lol." Fujin nodded again and softly said, "Yes, sensei." After that, Genki entered into Section B of the library. Fujin thought, "Oh, chunins are allowed in Section B? Then again, I'm not sure if this is for every chunin or just a few. He did say he was an elite. So I guess he is an elite chunin, who is probably close to becoming a special jounin or a jounin. Well, whatever, at least my current impression should be very good, so that's some good news." And Fujin finally returned back to the scroll. He started to try and understand how chakra is molded with each hand sign and got engrossed in it again. After some time, he heard a door open. Fujin looked up to see Genki exit Section B. He smiled at Fujin and exited the library. After trying to understand the hand signs a bit more, Fujin finally closed the scroll and returned it to where it was. He then grabbed the scrolls on wind nature training and went back to the same spot and started reading. After reading it, he thought, this was a bit disappointing. All that is mentioned here is the leaf cutting exercise. Waterfall cutting ain't mentioned. Then again, it makes sense as not everyone will have Yamato make a platform for them, and not everyone has Naruto's chakra levels in order to make that many clones. The remaining content is mostly about the benefits of leaf cutting exercise and precautions to take. The only useful thing is the deeper explanation of the hand sign for wind nature transformation. He then got up and exchanged the scroll for earth nature training. This one was a bit more comprehensive. Fujin thought, alright, this one's more helpful. Apparently, there are 2 basic ways to master earth transformation. The first one is to crush a stone. This was similar to leaf cutting. And the second one was to mold clay into various shapes, harden it and so on using only chakra. It makes sense. Most earth-style jutsus I remember were basically just moving a part of the ground above the surface. So clay molding will be very helpful. As for stone crushing, after crushing stones I could try crushing boulders to increase the mastery of earth nature, whereas for clay molding, I could just increase the amount of clay, or maybe I could try molding mud or soil as it'll be much tougher. He then placed the scroll back. Went to Section E and grabbed a scroll on the basics of Fuinjutsu. Upon reading it, he analyzed, alright, this doesn't sound too hard. Though I guess the difficulty should increase a lot for later versions. But yeah, this sounds to be too time-consuming. Best left for later. He kept the scroll back and started searching Section 0 for sensor training. He found many that were based on improving senses of smell or sight or hearing. After searching a lot, he finally found the one he was looking for. Sensing the chakra of anyone in your vicinity. On reading it, he found out, I see. So every ninja has a chakra field around them, though not everyone is able to use it properly. However, sensors can not only use their chakra field, but also expand their chakra field for hundreds of meters, and exceptional sensors can even expand it for a few kilometers to detect chakra within that field. On the other hand, if this chakra field is retracted, then that can help in hiding from enemy sensors. As for training to be a sensor, the greatest obstacles are the other senses of a ninja. So while training, it is advised to shut down the sense of sight, smell and hearing. Interesting, I wonder if I can shut down just 2 of them in order to train the remaining one. Good hearing, smell, and eyesight would be very helpful in this profession. The basic method is still meditation, but sort of done in reverse. Instead of meditating to isolate myself from the surroundings, I'll have to meditate in order to perceive my surroundings. Sadly though, I have no idea how to shut down my sense of smell, and also don't have any gadgets to stop hearing. So I'll require help here. Some guidance could be helpful too. I guess I'll somehow have to give Genki hints that I want to be a censor. Sigh, he finally kept the scroll and left the library. It was already evening. He thought, wow, I didn't notice the time at all. I guess I was in the library for over 6 hours. The library didn't have any window at all. Makes sense, they don't want anyone sneaking into the library. Probably the walls are fortified with the help of Fuinjutsu to prevent Earth-style users from breaking in. He went towards his home and on the way, bought a small pack of clay for 5 ryo and picked up a few small stones. Chapter 10, New Skills. Next day again Fujin was the last one to arrive. He came in merely a couple of minutes before 8 a.m. Looking at everyone he chuckled. Look at these kids coming early to sit on the first bench. He went and sat alone on the last bench and removed a stone and placed it in the desk. Genki arrived at 8 and started the class. The first hour apparently was a lecture. He was talking about the history of the village, the pride that one should have in being a Konoha shinobi and all such stuff. Fujin classified this lecture as a brainwashing session. Fujin observed the classroom. The 2 Naras were half asleep. The Akimikis were probably thinking about food. The 3 Inazukas were too distracted with their dogs. One of the 2 Uchihas was very smug for some reason while the 2 Kurama girls were gossiping about something. Others were paying attention. The smug-looking guy was Uchiha Yori. It seems like he wanted to walk in the footsteps of Itachi as he was bragging a lot about how the previous year's best student was an Uchiha who was only 7 years old on the previous day. Apparently both the Uchihas could already perform the fireball jutsu. Fujin finally stopped looking around. When Genki was writing something on the board, Fujin grabbed the stone with his left hand and started to train earth nature while keeping his hand under the desk. When he channeled his chakra, his whole attention was on Genki, to see whether he would notice and react. However, there wasn't any visible change in Genki's expression. Fujin thought, lucky. He ain't a natural censor. Or he is ignoring me for some reason, though chances of that are pretty low. Whatever, both scenarios are good for me. The lecture went on for an hour. Though Fujin paid some attention, the majority of his attention was on training his earth nature. After the brainwashing session was over, Genki started explaining to everyone about chakra, and then finally moved on to molding chakra with hand signs. Fujin stopped his earth nature training and paid full attention in the class. The kids from clans, however, were distracted. They had already been taught hand signs before they joined the academy. That class, Genki taught everyone about 3 hand signs and made everyone practice it. He monitored everyone closely. After the lecture was over, he said that in the next 3 days, he'll be teaching them the remaining hand signs. After that they broke off for lunch followed by a lecture on history. Senju Teru and Hyuga Hana were answering a lot of questions asked by Genki in this lecture. Fujin on the other hand stuck to his training while pretending to pay attention in the class. The week went by in a similar manner. Genki taught all 12 basic hand signs as well as the clone hand sign. He stressed on the importance of learning hand signs properly, which Fujin noted was similar to the notes he read from the scroll yesterday, and asked everyone to practice them at home. Other than this, Genki had also introduced everyone to the leaf concentration exercise at IN normal lectures. Fujin kept practicing on his earth nature training, but if he got bored with it, he used to try to use his wind nature to cut the stone instead of crumbling it with earth natured. In week 2, Genki held a class to throw shurikens. He first started with a competition between the students to understand where everyone stands. He also had called a few other teachers to help him with this session. Most of the clan kids performed well. The best was tied between Uchiha Yori and Senju Teru. The other Uchiha, Aburame and Shimura rounded up the top 5. Fujin was a bit startled by the serious attitude of Shimura Nobu. He thought, I guess Danzo got a root-like training program for the kids from his clan as well. Though Fujin had practiced earlier with self-made wooden shurikens, it was barely at acceptable level. For starters, the difference in weights itself reduced the impact of earlier training. Out of 6 shots he only managed to hit 1 on the board. And even that was closer to the edge rather than the center. He was ranked 21st in the competition. Afterwards, Genki met up with each and every student giving them advice. When he reached Fujin, he said, "All right, you have a lot of work to do on this. First we'll start from your throwing form. Once we get that correct, you will improve quickly." Fujin nodded and allowed Genki to correct his posture. And then he tried to replicate the way in which Genki displayed throwing a shuriken. After Genki corrected him a few more times. After being satisfied with his throwing form, Genki moved on to the remaining students. Fujin took this training seriously and practiced it a lot. After that day, his time after the academy was divided into his shuriken throwing practice, which he did in the academy practice grounds itself, right after the academy ended. And after reaching home, he practiced the hand signs, molded the clay, and meditated. He tried sensing his environment in the previous week, but didn't have any success at it. So that was left for later. The new thing that he started doing was that Fujin started to practice walking on the wall instead of leaf concentration. This was done as a substitute to tree climbing. Fujin noted that since the walls are uniform, wall walking should be easier than tree climbing. However, for now this should be enough. He arranged the cushions properly on the floor so that he won't get injured when he fell on the floor hundreds of times. Walking on walls took a few days to learn. By the end of week 2, he pulled that off without falling down. He could walk on the wall as well as stand on the ceiling. The major issue he faced here was the shortage of chakra. However, every day he practiced, he discovered that his stamina was improving, but he wasn't sure how much of that was due to better chakra control and how much was due to increase in chakra reserves. After trying to analyze a bit, he dropped the matter, assuring himself that it didn't matter as he was making progress anyways. During all those falls, he also learned how to flip himself in the air to properly land on his feet. After the first month in academy, Genki taught everyone the academy's basic taijutsu style. It included a lot of forms and moves to make it a comprehensive taijutsu style covering all areas. But that also meant that it wasn't specialized in anything. However, for now, Fujin didn't concern himself with that. This taijutsu style was obviously way superior to everything he could do in taijutsu. He was quite surprised and thought, "I didn't think the basic style itself would be so complicated and cover all aspects. It makes me wonder how much better Senju and Uchiha taijutsu styles are. And Hyuga taijutsu is obviously superior to even them. Well, let's first master the academy style. Then I can think about learning a more advanced form of taijutsu. This will take a lot of time, but luckily I do have a lot of time." After that day, the taijutsu forms got added to his morning workout as well. The taijutsu training in the academy went on for over a month just to teach the students everything about that taijutsu style. Fujin noted that the ones from Senju, Uchiha, Hyuga, and Inuzuka clan didn't learn the academy style of taijutsu. After the taijutsu lessons were over, the academy students were made to fight among themselves every week. And depending upon their performance and technique, Genki gave them tips or asked them to practice a certain form. Even these taijutsu matches were arranged as tournaments. Here Fujin did much better and was ranked 8th in the first tournament. Though his taijutsu style wasn't very good yet, he did benefit from having a stronger body. He wasn't very surprised by it. Though these students are very talented, maybe some even more than him, no 6-year-old kid would put as many hours in training as he did. The ones who do would be rare exceptions, like Guy for instance. Even Rock Lee only started to work that hard after he became a Genin. Hyuga Hoka ranked first in the first taijutsu tournament. He was followed by Senju Teru, Hyuga Hana, and Uchiha Yori, and the third Hyuga Shimura Nobu was 6th, followed by one of the remaining 2 Senju at 7th. Fujin thought, well, this is promising. Unlike them, I haven't had any proper training yet. As I train further, I should grow stronger a lot faster than these guys. I suppose I am moving in the right direction, then I should just stick to it. Genki started to conduct taijutsu tournaments and shuriken throwing tournaments every week for his class. Fujin noted that no such tournaments were arranged for the other 4 divisions. In fact, in one of his encounters with Daisuke, he learned that they hadn't even had a taijutsu class yet and are still being taught shuriken throwing and making hand signs properly. He thought, I guess they really are serious in developing this class properly. From what I heard, this was done last year as well. Though they were incredibly lucky to have Itachi in last year's class. If they have similar expectations from this year, then they will be very disappointed. Then again, I suppose they won't expect a talent of Itachi's caliber so regularly. Ending the train of thought, Fujin looked forward towards the future, a bit excited to keep improving himself. Chapter 11 Improvements. The academy life continued in this manner for the first 6 months. After 6 months, Genki had to report to Hiruzen on the progress of his class. He reached the Hokage office on the appointed time and knocked on the door. After being allowed in, he entered the room and respectfully said, "Lord Hokage." Hiruzen nodded and said, "It's all right. How is your class faring? Any talents?" Genki replied, "It's going pretty well. While it's still too early to say, I believe the majority of these kids will become elite among chunins, and few probably will become jounins. Senju Teru and Uchiha Yori have been showing the most talent, as expected from someone of their clan. Hyuga Hoka and Hana have also been performing really well. Shimura Nobu is also pretty good. The remaining 3 from Senju, Uchiha and Hyuga clans and the lone Aburame are decent as well. Among the civilians we've had a surprise. The orphan, Suzuki Fujin, has been progressing pretty fast. I've spied a little on him. He is very diligent and works very hard. He is definitely someone we should nurture for the future. There's another among the civilian kids, Aoki Nori, who is performing very well. The other kids are doing okay. On average, the talent in this batch is higher than the previous one," he said enthusiastically. But then he sighed and said, "Sadly there's no one like Itachi in this class." Hiruzen nodded and said, "That's all right. We can't get someone like Itachi every year. But your report still sounds very promising. If in the next 15 years we get a dozen jounins and have the remaining at chunin ranks, then it'll help the village a lot. You've done a good job. Keep it up. You'll be responsible for raising this batch into good shinobi for our village." Genki nodded his head and respectfully said, "Yes, Lord Hokage," and exited the room. After he left, Hiruzen thought, "Looks like we will be having another good crop of shinobi. Still, to think we'd have another diligent orphan. I wonder how his story would turn out to be." The praise that Genki had for Fujin wasn't underserved. Fujin improved a lot in these 6 months. A lot more than Genki gave him credit for. After all, even he couldn't know the fact that even at his home, Fujin spent most time training in a very planned manner. The most important improvement was in Fujin molding the chakra with hand signs. The speed had finally reached an acceptable speed and he was able to do 6 random seals one after another consecutively. He decided that it was finally time to start learning the basic jutsus in earth-nature transformation. He managed to crumble the rock. The clay molding was also coming along well. He could now manipulate the clay freely. And could partially harden it, but couldn't harden it entirely. Fujin noted that his progress with earth nature was much slower than wind nature. But that was understandable as his affinity was wind. Fujin also managed to create deep cuts in stones using his wind nature in taijutsu. He also adapted to the academy style very well. He frequently sparred with Teru, Hoka and Yori in the academy and now ranked within the top 4. Senju Teru in particular was kind of becoming a sparring partner to Fujin. In the tournaments he also noted that his stamina was very high among his classmates. With only Teru being able to match his stamina. He wondered if this was only due to having a more trained body or was his chakra also higher than others. After all, it made sense for Teru to have higher chakra level thanks to him being a senju. Shuriken throwing was coming around properly too. He was able to hit all 6 shurikens on the target with his right hand. Though not all used to hit in the dead center yet. But left-handed throwing still needed a bit of practice as he could only hit 4 out of 6 with it. He decided to practice till he can consistently hit the dead center with both hands. Then he can try to hit the target while running around. In the weekly shuriken throwing competitions, Fujin had slowly climbed into the top 10. Probably the most surprising thing would be that he was able to pop the water balloon around 4 months after the academy had started. He moved on to rubber ball, but that was very difficult for him. He felt like it'd be years before he could pop it successfully. The class went on in a similar manner. The enthusiasm of a new academy had died down, however competition between students had increased a lot. A smug Uchiha Yori had turned into a grumpy Uchiha Yori. Though he was good, he obviously was no Itachi. In terms of shuriken throwing he was matched equally by Teru and others were slowly managing to hit correctly with all 6 shurikens as well. Whereas in terms of taijutsu, both Teru and Hoka were better than him and Fujin and Hana were at a similar level as him. And even in lectures, Hana and Teru used to outdo him. In all, Teru was obviously better than him and Hana was around the same level. Fujin wondered, does this kind of jealousy unlock Sharingan? Or does it have to be a major impact like the death of someone? Well, I do hope he unlocks his Sharingan though. It would be helpful to get some experience by sparring with someone with a Sharingan. Those thoughts aside, Fujin had trouble of his own. His physical workouts in the morning were becoming stale. He had grown comfortable to them and didn't know how to make it harder without increasing the time of workout. Well, say that he didn't know any method would be wrong. He did know one method, that was adding weights. However, he didn't know if restricting your body with weights when he ain't even 7 years old would create any problems or not. He had found out about the prices of the weights. After 6 months of saving, Fujin had saved up over 1,200 ryo and could afford to buy the lighter weights. After thinking about it a bit, he decided to consult Genki. Unlike other things, there wasn't really much to hide about his physical workouts as he used to do it in the open anyways. Anyone who did a little investigation would have found it out. So one day, after the lectures were over, he asked Genki for help. He explained his problem to his sensei properly. After thinking for a bit, Genki demonstrated him a few slightly more difficult exercises. He also helped out to design a new workout plan for Fujin. After seeing the new plan, Fujin thanked his sensei politely for it while thinking, this is really helpful. I should have asked him earlier. He actually seemed enthusiastic to help me. But then again, I'm pretty sure that even this will become comfortable for me after a few months. Hence, after thanking him, he asked again, Sensei, will it be fine if I make the exercises difficult by wearing weights? Genki was surprised by the question. He asked seriously, where did you learn about weights? Fujin acted to show that he was nervous and said, I saw a weapons shop in the market when I was shopping. I saw the weights in that shop. Genki understood and then explained, I see. Well, it's good to be curious, but don't use weights for training. They'll affect the growth of your body and it'll be bad for you in the long run. He then put up a kind smiling face and said, it is very good that you asked me. Next time you have any such ideas, ask me before trying, okay? Fujin nodded. Then after thinking for a bit he asked, Sensei, then is there anything else I could use to make the workout tougher? Genki was a bit surprised by Fujin's obsession in making the physical workouts tougher. He thought, Fujin was genuinely happy with the new plan, and yet he still keeps asking me these questions. Does that mean that he is thinking that this new workout will soon become easy for him? That's surprising. I knew he was diligent, but not this much. Now he makes me really look forward to his future. Genki then said, actually there is another way. Instead of weights, you can have some seals do the same work without having any disadvantages. Like a gravity seal. Fujin was surprised with this information. He thought, I guess I really need to learn Fuinjutsu. He showed an enthusiastic expression to Genki. Genki was happy with the enthusiasm Fujin showed and decided to play a little trick on him. Genki continued, however, these seals can't be given to anyone. Also, they are very expensive if you try to get them, so you can't get them by yourself. Fujin was instantly confused. He frowned a bit and wondered, what's he playing at? I think he is trying to bait me or something. He decided to play along and then sighed and showed a dejected expression. Genki was happy with the response he saw on Fujin's face and said enticingly, however, don't worry. Do you remember what I said on the first day? That the Hokage will watch your exams. Fujin, still confused, nodded his head. Genki continued, if you perform the best among your classmates, then you can ask Hokage for a gift. So then you could ask Hokage for these seals to help you. Till then you should stick to the plan I made for you. Fujin finally started to get some ideas. He nodded his head while thinking, is he trying to motivate me to perform good in the exams? By dangling a carrot in front of me? Seeing Fujin nod, Genki smiled and said while ruffling Fujin's hair, good. But the exams will also have a theoretical part and not only physical exercises. So you have to study theory too if you want to come first. Finally getting what's going on, Fujin said enthusiastically, yes, sensei, I'll study hard for the final exam. Satisfied with himself, Genki finally left. After Genki left, Fujin laughed a lot internally and then thought, sigh, it's hard to keep acting as a kid, though there is an aspect of fun in it, and damn these adults, trying to manipulate little kids so much. It was the same in my previous life. Everyone just forces little kids to come first in everything they do. Sad part is I actually have to perform well in those exams. Still though, it was very hilarious to watch. Him trying to manipulate a little kid. Sucks for him that I am no little kid. I guess he said that just because I don't participate much in those boring lectures. Come to think about it, I don't think I have ever even answered a single question he asked in class. No wonder he tried to manipulate me. I guess I'll have to improve my pretending to pay attention in class skill. Anyways, I ain't really worried about theoretical exams. While I won't be arrogant to say that I am the smartest person in the room, but my brain is much more mature than theirs. These exams should be very easy for me. That said, the seals do worry me a bit. After all, if someone messes with the seal while putting it on me, it would become very troublesome. I guess I should check up the gravity seal and some suppression seals in the library sometime later. Ending his train of thoughts, Fujin looked again at the new workout plan and walked to the library. Chapter 12, Defection. After entering the library, Fujin first entered Section 0 and searched for chakra control scrolls. After searching for a few minutes, he finally found the right one. After finding a place to sit, he opened it up and started reading while thinking, I can now walk on walls even in my sleep. I need to try tree climbing a bit and then move on to water walking if I want to improve my chakra control even further. If anyone asks where I learnt these things, I can refer them to this scroll. The scroll mentioned leaf concentration, tree climbing, and water walking. However, what surprised Fujin was that a scroll was referred to at the end of the scroll which presented a theory to improve chakra control even further. To satisfy his curiosity, he searched for that scroll and started reading it. After reading, he analyzed, interesting. The scroll proposes a theory that chakra could be used to counterbalance ourselves against the gravity itself. By applying as much force as gravity applies on us, one could float and ascend or descend by applying higher and lower forces respectively. Still though, no one has successfully managed to do this. Even Tsunade in this series didn't have any such skill, and her chakra control was the best there was in the whole series. As for others who flew like the third Tsuchikage and the ones related to him, I think they used earth style to lighten themselves or something along those lines. I don't recall it properly. Anyways, this is an interesting theory. Maybe I could try it sometime later on. Keeping the scroll back, Fujin finally decided to get to his main task. He went in Section E and grabbed the Clone Jutsu scroll. On opening it, he found that this jutsu needed only 3 seals. They were ram, snake, and tiger in that order. He read the scroll further. After reading it, he thought, I see. Even though the hand signs are only 3, a lot more has to be done internally. The hand signs only act as a guide. So just knowing the hand signs won't be enough to be able to do the jutsu. Guess that scraps all my plans for Shadow Clone Jutsu. Anyways, I should start learning this jutsu. After memorizing everything of importance regarding clone jutsu, he left the library. He went back to his apartment and started practicing the clone jutsu behind closed doors. As expected, the jutsu was quite difficult. He had to make a couple of more trips to the library in order to read that scroll again. During one such trip, he saw Genki watching him and smiling. He thought, I guess he misunderstood that I'm visiting the library to learn more about history and other stuff he covers in class. Well, whatever, it's not a problem to me. He also temporarily scrapped his after-academy routine and focused entirely on the clone jutsu. Only after he ran out of chakra would he take a break and meditate. It took 3 days for him to be able to make his first clone. And he was horrified by it. His thoughts were, I never thought I'd make worse clones than Naruto. Only after a week was he finally able to create a decent clone. He practiced it for another week to get the hang of it and could do it at a much faster pace. After that, he started to learn the transformation jutsu. Transformation was going to be a critical technique for him. He planned to disguise himself in order to train outside in order to ensure that he didn't attract much attention to himself. It also doubles up as training for infiltration missions. In case anyone did catch him, he can use that excuse to get away. It took him a week to pull off transformation jutsu properly to a certain extent. He had transformed into his classmates. However, it wasn't entirely perfect. There were still a lot of imperfections. And that only in terms of appearance. He hadn't managed to transform his smell and chakra as mentioned in the scroll. He thought, this is tough. Just getting the appearance right is very difficult. I guess I may be able to change the smell after a while, but perfectly replicating someone's smell will be difficult. Then again, if I recall right, even Naruto in Chunin exams wasn't able to replicate smell as Kiba was easily able to identify him due to his smell. So I guess it is rather difficult to pull off. Even the ones who pass the academy aren't expected to learn how to change the smell. I guess I can work around this by transforming into people from my previous life and using perfumes to mask my smell. That way at least disguising as a stranger would be doable, he continued with his practice. However, next morning when he woke up and started his morning workout, he noticed that the environment in the village seemed very tense. Despite it being so early, quite a lot of people were awake. And many ninjas were running around. And most of those ninjas had very solemn faces. Fujin wondered as to what happened. After the class started, he noticed that a few of the kids from clans looked a bit tense. He approached Senju Teru and asked why they were so tense. Teru was surprised a bit and asked, "Didn't anyone tell you the news?" Fujin was now really curious. He asked back, "Nope, what news?" Teru stated seriously, "Yesterday night, one of the legendary Sanins, Orochimaru, betrayed Konoha and ran away from the village. He is now a missing nin." Hearing that, Fujin became very serious. After a few seconds he replied seriously, "Yeah, that's some bad news. Extremely surprising too." Teru agreed, "Yeah. Who would have thought that one of the third Hokage's students would betray Konoha? I heard that he did a lot of illegal experiments that killed a lot of people. Who'd have ever guessed that someone so respected would have been such a scum?" Fujin nodded solemnly and went to the last bench and sat there. He thought, damn, it's hard to act surprised when you already know it is gonna happen. Still though, things are happening in a similar way to what happened in Naruto. The results of the Third War, attack of Kurama and Minato's death, then Itachi passing in a year and now Orochimaru's defection. I guess the next event would be an attempt by Kumo to kidnap Hinata and the death of Hizashi. That move from Kumo does make some sense. With Minato dead, Orochimaru defected and the remaining two Sanins not present in the village. Then again, giving Hizashi to them was really spineless of Hiruzen. Well, whatever, I don't really have any power to interfere or all the information about Konoha's and Kumo's military. Then again, even if I did have the power, I'd have probably ignored it as it doesn't have anything to do with me. Anyways, Orochimaru leaving is definitely some good news. If I had to pick the ones I totally want to avoid before I become strong enough, then Danzo and Orochimaru would be the ones to top the list. With Orochimaru gone, half the danger is eliminated. Now I just need to hope that I don't catch Root's attention. Otherwise life will get a lot more troublesome. That said, I do wonder if, like in Naruto, here too Hiruzen let Orochimaru go, or was Orochimaru able to retreat by himself? If it's the former, then that's a huge blame on Hiruzen. How many people died due to Orochimaru just because Hiruzen was too soft to kill his disciple? Heck, even all the deaths caused by Kabuto's impure world resurrection in the Fourth Great Ninja War can be blamed on this bad decision by Hiruzen. Fujin sighed after having that thought. While Fujin wasn't disturbed and even happy that Orochimaru had defected, almost everyone else in the ninja world was tensed. In the Hokage's office, Hiruzen was present with a solemn face. Apart from Hiruzen, Hamura and Koharu were also very worried. Danzo was present too. Danzo criticized the Hokage. "Hiruzen, you've grown soft. You have let such a huge threat to the village get away." Before Hiruzen could reply, Koharu chided, "I agree. Orochimaru has the knowledge of a lot of secrets of Konoha. If he were to leak anything to our enemy villages, then it'll be a nightmare for us." Hiruzen sighed and replied, "It's unfortunate that he chose to defect, but I'm sure that he won't do anything that'll be detrimental for Konoha." Danzo sarcastically spoke, "Yeah, just like you were sure that he won't defect from Konoha. Not only did he escape from you, he also killed close to a couple of dozen of our ninjas that were chasing after him. And there's no saying what else would he do." Hamura tried to calm the situation down. "Well, we can keep arguing about this later. The question right now is what T.O. do right now." With the amount of secrets he was privy to, even the various clan heads are very tense. Danzo stated, "We have to mark Orochimaru as a missing nin, increase his bounty and also send a squad to chase after him and eliminate him." Hiruzen countered it saying, "Sending any squads behind him will probably just get them killed. And we are very short on manpower as it is." Koharu questioned, "But we can't leave him unchecked, can we?" Danzo and Hamura agreed with Koharu. Hiruzen then said, "I'll send Jiraiya to chase after him," while thinking, hopefully he'll be able to convince Orochimaru to return and get back on the right track. Danzo questioned, "Won't he fall prey to his emotions just like you did?" "I suggest sending root ninjas alongside Jiraiya." Hiruzen, however not trusting Danzo's intentions, just dismissed it saying, "They'll just get in his way." The discussion between the four old teammates continued for a while. In the afternoon there was a council meeting. All the clan leaders were very tense during this meeting. Orochimaru had worked with all of them at some point, and known many of their clan's secrets which would be bad for them if leaked to enemies. A few even blamed Hiruzen for having a soft side for his students. The council concluded by labeling Orochimaru as a missing Nin, increasing his bounty by 50% and sending Jiraiya to hunt down Orochimaru. The various clan leaders were doubtful whether Jiraiya would really hunt Orochimaru, however they didn't really have any other option. Every other hidden village was surprised and shocked by this news. Sunagakure, Raza thought. First Minato and their Jinchuriki's death and now Orochimaru's defection? Are they falling apart? TCH, it sucks that we were hit so badly in the previous war and recovery is so slow due to that bastard daimyo. Otherwise I'd have definitely taken advantage of this situation. In Kirigakure, Yagura received the reports as well. But he was too busy in Kiri's internal problems to pay much attention to this incident. In Iwagakure, the council debated this matter at length. A few suggested that they should use this opportunity to take revenge for what Minato did to them, while some were cautious, wondering if Konoha was playing some sort of game. At the end, when the discussion came to an end, they asked Inoki what they should do. Inoki said, "There's no point in hurrying to do something right now. Even without Minato and Orochimaru, Konoha is still very strong. And in any case, there's no way that Brade won't do something. Let's just watch what he does and how Konoha responds and then decide what to do." On hearing Inoki's decision, one thought ran through everyone present in the council meeting: fence-sitter indeed. In Kumogakure though, the fourth Raikage thought very hard about this incident. After discussing with his council, he decided to see if he could take advantage of Konoha's misfortune. Chapter 13, Academy Exam. While the whole ninja world discussed Orochimaru's defection, Fujin didn't bother with it and kept his focus on his training. After 2 weeks of training for transformation jutsu, it had finally improved to an acceptable level, though it still had a lot of space for improvement. After that, he began the training for substitution jutsu. This one was much tougher than the other two. It took nearly twice the time to learn this jutsu and master it to an acceptable level. However, it wasn't what Fujin had thought it to be. He thought, the technique is basically just misdirection. The main focus here is noticing your opponent's focus, and the instant he loses focus a bit, replace yourself with an object quickly enough so that the enemy won't notice you. It ain't an instant switcheroo. So it won't work against someone much stronger than you or someone having a Sharingan activated. The object actually has to be very close to you, otherwise the jutsu will become much harder to be performed. Sigh, that makes sense. Instant switcheroo would have been too overpowered considering that every academy kid learns this technique. It does have a lot of variations though. Genjutsu, transformation jutsu, can be used to fool the enemy better. Chakra threads could be used to bring an object at a distance closer to you. It also states that a lower form summoning jutsu could be used to instantly summon the objects around you while you hightail out of there. Still, though it ain't as overpowered as I thought, it is still very useful. The subtleness of misdirection would be a very important skill to have as a ninja. It could be applied in a lot of scenarios. I should still master it to the point of being able to do it without hand signs. But body flicker jutsu has to be focused much more now. I will also have to learn some wind and earth style escape jutsus. For nearly 2 months, Fujin kept on attempting these jutsus till he ran out of chakra. This process of training till he ran out of chakra had a marvelous effect on his chakra reserves. They increased considerably during these 2 months. During these 2 months, he also searched the library for scrolls on increasing chakra reserves. He found 2 scrolls very easily. One explained that chakra increased as one experienced physical and spiritual growth, i.e., it could be increased over time by doing physical exercises and meditation. Another compared chakra reserves to muscle. Just like how physical straining your muscles would increase muscles, chakra reserves would increase by straining it. So to increase the reserves, one had to keep using his chakra till he ran out of it. Fujin had been dependent on the above 2 till now, which explained the rapid growth in his chakra reserves. Apart from that, he also found a few other ways or theories. One scroll talked about using nature chakra, i.e. the sage mode, which would increase the chakra reserves and make it more potent for the time the sage mode was activated. Another scroll talked about increasing cellular activity. By making the cells more active, one could extract more chakra out of each cell, thus considerably increasing the reserves. It would also help in improving the physique. Fujin was quite impressed with this theory. Sadly, the way to increase cellular activity wasn't mentioned. Fujin wondered. I doubt it'll be easy to increase cellular activity. Otherwise this method would be very common. I wonder who came up with this theory. Perhaps I could contact that person in the future. On reading the scroll entirely, he saw the name of the person who wrote this scroll at the end. He was very surprised by it initially and then concluded, makes sense that it was the snake bastard who came up with this theory. TCH, seems like this method is a dead end. Maybe if I raid his bases in the future and get my hands on his research results, I could find the way if I get lucky, though the chances are pretty low to be honest. Otherwise I could try asking Tsunade. Her knowledge of the human body might exceed Orikima. Ruse. And she was his ex-teammate. It's possible that she helped Orochimaru on this. Sigh, another thing to consider for the future. The other theories were similarly not implementable. Some were not complete, some were detrimental in the long run. Fujin sighed and returned all the scrolls to their place. He thought, I guess my only option is asking Genki. Sadly, I don't have a reasonable excuse to explain why I want to increase my chakra level. His first question would be, how am I running out of chakra? And I can't tell him that I am practicing the basic jutsus on my own. If told it to him and he told his colleagues, the word would eventually reach Hiruzen and Danzo. A 6-year-old orphan who can perform all 3 basic ninjutsus, it's a ticket straight into the root. After Fujin had those 3 jutsus down, he started to again allot time for other aspects. For the past 2 months he had decreased his shuriken throwing practice time, dropped clay molding, stopped practicing chakra control and used to meditate only when he was totally drained of chakra. Among those 3 jutsus, he didn't intend to work much on the clone jutsu, as in the future he'll be replacing it with shadow clones and elemental clones. As for transformation jutsu, it was very difficult to completely master. So he just decided to focus on the appearance part. However, for substitution jutsu, he planned to master it completely. To the extent where he could do it instantly without the use of any hand signs. In these 2 months, he also progressed a lot in earth and wind nature training during the lectures. He was now instantly able to crumble a small stone into soil, and also able to cut a stone into 2. In a rather awkward but hilarious incident, his desk was once full of the soil from crumbled stones and he had to silently clear it after the classes were over. After that incident he stopped crumbling the stones in the class. He wondered what he could do during that time though. Sadly, he couldn't think of a suitable replacement for earth nature training. So he just decided to further focus on wind nature and started carrying a small metal scrap into class and started to try to cut it. Over the next few months he started to go out of his home and roam the streets of Konoha while using transformation jutsu to disguise himself as a random teenager. He identified a lot of isolated places in the bunch of mini forests within Konoha and started practicing tree climbing. It was very similar to walking on walls. Only difference being the rougher surface of the trees. He managed to do it within an hour itself and moved on to water walking. Apart from that, he also read up on the gravity seal and a few suppression seals in the library. Another month went by in a similar manner, leaving less than a month to the final exams. Fujin finally wondered whether to start preparing for the exams. He thought, still 25 days for written exams. It's still too early. However, after convincing himself a bit more, he sighed, whatever, it's my first exam in this world, might as well get it done with. While studying, he did note that the syllabus here was tougher than his previous world. It's probably what would be expected of a 9 to 10-year-old kid, and not from a 6 to 7-year-old kid. He wondered whether the syllabus in the ending years may actually provide a challenge to him. Soon final exams were upon the academy students. For all other students, the final exams were only the written part. However, for the ones in elite batches, more parameters were added. For Fujin's class, shuriken throwing competition, leaf concentration competition and taijutsu tournaments were arranged too. For shuriken throwing, a board with circles of different size but same center was placed and everyone had to hit it. The points depended on in which circle the shuriken hit, with the smallest circle having highest points and largest having the lowest. In all, the shuriken competition was worth 30 points. Leaf concentration competition was only to see how long one could keep the leaf from falling down. It was worth 20 points. The one who held it for the longest would get full 20 points, and the points of others would depend on how long they kept the leaf from falling as compared to him. For example, if the one who held it for the longest held it for 30 minutes, he would get 20 points, whereas if someone else held it for only 21 minutes, he'd get only 14 points. The taijutsu tournament was straightforward, with points depending on the rank. It was worth 50 points. And the written exam itself was worth 100 points. The exams finally happened. Fujin did get a laugh out of how serious everyone was for the exams and the written exams. Fujin was confident that he answered everything right, though he wasn't sure how everyone else performed. 2 days after the written exams, the other competitions were to be held. He guessed that they wanted to grade the written papers first, so that Hokage can reward the winner right there. They started the day with leaf concentration. Fujin, as he had already started to practice water walking, was quite confident in this competition. The competition started. The first guy dropped his leaf in merely 2 minutes. He was from the Inuzuka clan. More than half of the class dropped out within the first 4 minutes. Fujin could hear the groaning and upset voices from them. After 10 minutes, only 9 students were still competing. After 15 minutes, the only ones left were Suzuki Fujin, Hyuga Hana, Senju Teru, Shimura Nobu, and Uchiha Yori. Right around that time, he heard Yori groaning. He knew from the exercises conducted in class that at max the others could go 20-odd minutes. Senju Teru dropped the leaf during the 19th minute, Nobu dropped it at the 21st minute, whereas Hana continued till the 22nd minute. Fujin decided to build up a decent lead for the points he'll be losing in the taijutsu tournament. Wanting to stop around half an hour, he continued up to 33rd minute before intentionally making a mistake and dropping the leaf. Though he had outperformed his classmates, he wasn't that worried about attracting a lot of attention, as last year, Itachi didn't drop the leaf for freaking 2 hours. And there were rumors that he didn't drop it but was asked to stop performing it. On opening his eyes, he saw a few kids looking at him enviously, and Yori nearly fuming at how outmatched he was in this competition. The next one was the shuriken throwing competition. Yori, Teru, Nobu, Fujin, Hoka, and a couple more scored perfect in this competition. Looking at Yori's fallen face, Fujin noted, "This competition is indeed unfair for him. From what I've seen, Yori is able to hit a still target while he is moving very accurately. While he can also hit a moving target on a consistent basis, though not dead center. Sadly for him, the exam wasn't that difficult and hence many others were able to match him. If not, only Teru and maybe Nobu would have been able to match him. In the taijutsu comp. Itishin, Hyuga Hoka ranked first, followed by Teru and Hana. Fujin was ranked 4th and Yori and Nobu were 5th and 6th respectively. Fujin had defeated Yori in the quarterfinals. Admittedly, Yori's technique was superior to Fujin's, however his physique was much weaker. However, in the semis, Fujin lost to Hoka, and in the fight to decide rank 3 he lost to Hana. He noted, "Damn, these Hyugas are tough to fight. Heck, pure taijutsu competition against them is completely unfair." Even Teru, though he fought well with his Senju style, in the end he still lost. "If I meet these Hyugas in Chunin exams or somewhere, I'll be sure to pack a shit lot of explosion tags to fight from far away." Hiruzen had visited to spectate the taijutsu completion. Fujin did note that everyone was much fiercer during the taijutsu competition, especially Hana. He wondered if that was because it was the exams, or because the Hokage was spectating. With all the exams completed, the teachers allowed the students a small break while they readied the final scores of everyone. Chapter 14 Results. While the teachers were calculating the final scores, all the students were waiting around in the training grounds. Fujin internally laughed while noticing, "Wow, some of them are so nervous, it's so cute, ha ha ha." Only the 2 yawning Naras and Teru looked calm. After adding up the scores and cross-checking, the teachers finally came back, led by the Hokage himself. Hiruzen gave another inspiring brainwashing speech while praising everyone for their efforts and the display of their talents. After his speech, Genki walked forward and displayed the results on a board. As Fujin expected, he was the one ranked first. The scores of top 5 were Fujin, 100 plus 20 plus 30 plus 44 equals 194 Hana, 100 plus 13 plus 29 plus 46 equals 188 Teru, 96 plus 12 plus 30 plus 48 equals 186 Nobu, 98 plus 13 plus 30 plus 40 equals 181 Yori, 95 plus 09 plus 30 plus 42 equals 176 Fujin, looking at his rank, was very satisfied. It was as he expected. However, on taking a deeper look and checking the scores in each individual category for him and others, he was a bit shocked. "Damn. I'm ranked 1 only due to the leaf concentration competition. If I didn't build a huge lead there, then Hana would have outranked me and Teru would have been tied with me. I didn't expect anyone else to get a 100 in written exams. He exhaled a long breath of air in relief. I guess I have been incredibly lucky with the marking system of the leaf concentration competition. Chakra control is where I am much superior to these kids from the clans. But sadly for them, their specialties weren't marked in this manner. Yori and Teru could have easily scored much more if the shuriken competition was made more difficult. Similarly, they'd have been much superior than everyone if ninjutsu was tested. After all, fireball jutsu is a rank C jutsu. I am sure Genki would have noticed this too. So next year the marking scheme might be different. Perhaps other exams would be marked similar to the best scorer as well, he concluded his thoughts with. Even though I ranked first, I still have much to work on. I shouldn't slack off. Instead, I should be intensifying my training. I'm sure these guys would be trained hard by their clans during the vacation. After coming out of his thoughts, he noticed those around himself. He noticed that Hana and Teru were looking at him with a very aggrieved look, as if he had done them a huge injustice. After a second, he realized that they were probably mad due to the results of the leaf concentration competition. He just decided to ignore them. After displaying the results, Hiruzen wanted Genki to announce the prize. However, after looking at Genki, Hiruzen felt as if Genki was looking very grumpy. He began to guess what made him so irritated, wondering if he could get to hear an interesting story. He decided to ask him later. Genki was really irritated. He thought, this brat. For 10 fucking months he didn't answer a single question in the class. Always seemed half distracted. Who knows what the fuck he does with his left hand always under his desk. The one time I tried to check, all I found was a lot of soil under his desk. And now he scores a perfect 100 on written exams? Don't tell me that after he goes home all he does is study. Right then he felt like the Hokage was looking at him. Seeing Hokage looking at him, he understood what Hokage wanted and quickly announced, "All right everyone, be silent for a while." After getting the class's attention, he continued, "As I had told you guys on the first day, Lord Hokage would come here to watch your performance. However, there's an additional reward for the one who scores the highest in this exam. The best student can ask Lord Hokage for a reward." On hearing this, the civilian kids were surprised, while the kids from clans seemed to already know this. Genki announced loudly, "Suzuki Fujin, step forward." Fujin walked forward while thinking, I wonder what are the limits of the reward. Can I ask for private tutoring from him? Any forbidden or rank S jutsus? Or better yet, ask for the scroll of sealing. Hehe, I wonder what face he'd make if I asked for the scroll of sealing or something like Edo Tensei. Oh well, need to show proper respect now I guess. When Fujin reached in front of Hiruzen, he bowed respectfully. Seeing that, Hiruzen was very pleased. He smiled kindly and said, "You've performed really well. I can see that you have worked really hard to be able to rank first in your class. The will of fire burns strong in you." Fujin thought sarcastically. "Yeah, right." Hiruzen continued, "Ask what reward you'd like." Fujin took a glance at Genki and was a bit surprised at his irritated look. He then looked towards Hiruzen and respectfully said, "Lord Hokage, I would like to get seals that can replicate the effect weights have on our physique, but without any detrimental side effects." Hiruzen was a bit surprised by what Fujin asked for. However, he soon nodded and said, "All right. However, it will require some time to be prepared. I'll call you to my office when it is ready." Fujin tried to show a very happy and enthusiastic expression. He said in an excited manner, "Thank you very much, Lord Hokage." After that, he retreated back among the kids. The exams were finally over. Fujin, who had already grown used to the new routine provided by Genki, would finally have better means to strengthen his physique. However, before they were dismissed, Genki announced that they would have a class tomorrow. Hearing that, most of the kids groaned. Students from other divisions already started their vacations 2 days back. Genki, however, tried his best to assure everyone that this will be the last class. Next day, everyone was present in the classroom. Genki arrived and the class greeted him. A few were still upset at being called for class. Genki started by saying, "Before we start, I have to say that I am very proud of your performance yesterday. Keep up your hard work and soon you all will be splendid shinobi." Hearing that, Alma down the upset ones. He continued, "I hope that you guys continue your training in the vacation as well. As for today's class, don't worry, it'll be very exciting for you. I will be talking about what options are available to you guys in the future. That is what type of ninja you can become. After that, Genki started telling them what all options are there in the future. He started with the easiest one to understand, the medic nin. He explained what a medic ninja does and emphasized their importance in a squad. He even mentioned Tsunade in order to increase the interest of his students. Study followed it up with various other possibilities like assault ninja, tracking ninja, sensor ninja, hunter nin, infiltration ninja, communication ninja, and so on. He explained the benefits of each and every one of them as well as their restrictions and limitations as well as the risks associated. He also gave a good role model for each option. He also explained about specializing. He explained genjutsu, taijutsu, various elemental ninjutsu. A ninja could become very powerful if specialized in one of these. But having basic capability for the rest is important too. Otherwise you will have a lot of weaknesses. He explained more about them. The lecture continued for 2 hours straight. Around 10 a.m., Genki finally ended his lecture. He said, "Alright, with this now you are officially on your vacations." Fujin was very happy with this lecture. He thought, finally I got a chance. Many students got very excited and started celebrating. However, Genki raised his voice and continued, "But think about what we talked about today. Discuss it with your parents and decide the optimal way for you to train. If anyone has any doubts, they can consult me. I'll be in the staff room till noon." With that, he finally ended his class. Many students just ran out of the class. Fujin instead went to the shuriken training ground and started practicing. After half an hour, he decided to visit Genki. On reaching the staff room, he knocked and entered after being permitted. Genki was the only teacher present. It made sense as vacations had started. Looking at Fujin, Genki was still irritated a bit. However, after a few seconds, he let out a sigh and thought, forget it. I guess he is just too reserved to actively participate in class. Fujin was puzzled by looking at Genki's sigh. He called him to get his attention. "Sensei," Genki replied, "So, what queries do you want to clear?" Fujin replied, "Sensei, could you update my workout routine again and also tell me more about those seals and how to use them?" Genki nodded and took a look at his workout routine again. After considering the addition of seals, he made a few changes to the routine and asked Fujin to follow them. He said, "Alright, follow this plan, and if you get comfortable, you can increase the pressure that the seals can put on you. However, don't increase the pressure a lot or you can get injured and won't be able to practice for weeks." Fujin nodded, "Thank you, Sensei." However, he still stood there and asked something Genki would have never guessed. He said, "Sensei, I thought about the roles you mentioned during the lecture. And I'm really interested in being a censor. So can you tell how I should train for it?" Genki was really surprised by this request. Not able to understand the reason, he asked, "Why do you want to become a censor?" Fujin replied confidently, "Sensei, if an enemy sneaks up on me or my team in the future, being a censor would help me save all of us. Also, I'll be able to detect enemies from far away and prevent us from falling into any ambush. That's why I wanted to become a censor." After finishing, Fujin smirked internally. Genki was surprised a bit by the answer. All the stuff that Fujin just said was what he himself had said in class. He thought, no wonder he scored full in written exams. But still, something doesn't add up. He seems a bit too interested in becoming a censor. It's not something that can happen in merely 2 hours. It's as if he knew about censors beforehand. He asked, "Since when did you want to become a censor ninja?" Fujin wasn't ignorant of the fact that Genki could have found this request a bit suspicious. He acted to show that he was nervous and said, I wasn't aware of censor ninjas until today's lecture." He then sheepishly rubbed the back of his head while saying, "However, I was thinking along those lines from the day you snuck up on me in the library. If it was an enemy, he could have killed me without me even knowing what happened." Genki was stunned by the reply. I never thought that a simple incident as that had such an impact on him. And that was merely his first day. Sigh. "Whatever, I guess I'm the one to blame for this obsession of his," he then replied. "I am not a censor, so I won't be able to help you with this." Hearing that, he saw a dejected look at Fujin. Fujin was thinking, "Oh please, not another trick again. I don't want to wait till next year's final exam." However, Genki had good news for Fujin. He continued, "However, I have a good friend who is a censor and is in the censor division of Konoha. I'll ask him to train you over the vacation. I hope you don't have any other plans for the vacation." Fujin put up an excited expression while thinking, "Oh, I do have a lot of plans, not just for the vacation but also for the next year or two." and said, "No, sensei." In an excited manner, Genki smiled and said that he'll pick up Fujin tomorrow at 8 a.m. Fujin then took his leave. Chapter 15 Censor. Next morning, Genki showed up at Fujin's house at 8 a.m. After picking him up, they went to a training ground. Fujin saw that a middle-aged man, probably in late 20s or early 30s, was waiting. He noticed that the man had Yamanaka crest on him. He thought, should have guessed. In Konoha, they are the best censors. Genki approached him and said, "Yo, this is the kid I was talking about. Fujin, he is Shin. He was my classmate. He is a special jounin. He'll be giving you tips on how to become a censor. He may seem grumpy at times, but don't worry, he is a very kind person." Fujin nodded. "Good morning, Shin-sensei." He noted that Shin, who was already looking a bit mad at Genki's introduction, seemed even more grumpy after he greeted him. Shin angrily said, "Damn you, Genki. Not only do you give such a shit introduction but now are also trying to pull me into being a sensei." He then looked at Fujin strictly and said, "Kiddo, don't ever call me sensei." Fujin wondered, why is everyone so strange, while Genki asked mockingly, "Damn, why do you have to be so grumpy so early in the day?" Fujin acted to show he was nervous and asked, "So what do I call you?" Shin thought for a few seconds and then put up a smile on his face, with his eyes almost sparkling, and said, "Call me Shin Aniki." His face looked borderline creepy. Fujin's expression immediately became entirely plain and almost blurted out, "Why don't I call you Old G?" "Easer." Genki face-bombed and scolded, "Stop being creepy. Let him call you sensei." Shin sighed in disappointment and replied, "All right, leave it." Then looking at Fujin he said, "All right, kiddo, first let's see how talented you are in becoming a censor. If your talent is very poor, then I won't be teaching you and you shouldn't waste your time on it either." He first lectured Fujin a bit about what censors do and how. Then instructed Fujin to sit in a meditative pose and told him how to sense his chakra field. It took nearly half an hour for Fujin to sense his chakra field. The instructions were very helpful. Shin then tested Fujin's chakra field a bit. After some testing, he concluded that Fujin's chakra field had a radius of 7.3 meters. Shin commented, 7.3 meters, not bad. An average ninja has a chakra field of 4 to 5 meters. In my Yamanaka clan, we train our youngsters in becoming a censor if their chakra field exceeds 7 meters, while for other Konoha shinobi, the minimum requirement is 5.9 meters. However, that is just the bare minimum. Quite a few in the Yamanaka clan had their chakra field exceed 10 meters before they started training to become a censor. I myself had a radius of 10.6 meters. So while you can become a censor, you'll have to do a lot of hard work. So are you sure you still wanted to train to become a censor? Fujin processed all the information quickly and nodded. Shin said, "All right, I'll guide you. However, the process of training to become a censor is quite complicated. We will need proper training facilities. I'll take you to the place where Konoha censors are trained. You will start visiting there daily at 10:30 a.m. from tomorrow onwards." Genki nodded at his former classmate. He looked at Fujin and informed, "Lord Hokage will have your seals ready by tomorrow. Report to his office tomorrow at 6 p.m. Fujin nodded and said, "Thank you, sensei." He then accompanied Shin to the training facility. The location was slightly away from the residential areas. It was in the middle of one of the many mini forests in Konoha. Fujin memorized the location and then took his leave. Next day, Fujin reached the training facility at 10:28 a.m. He saw that Shin was already there. On entering, Fujin saw that there were a lot of rooms in the facility. The facility was mostly empty with very few people actually being there. However, Fujin noted that quite a few rooms were occupied. Shin said, "These rooms isolate everything outside it, and also have seals that can eliminate all sound and smell in the room. So you'll have to entirely be dependent on your ability to sense." Fujin paid attention while Shin was explaining it. He thought, "I see, this makes sense. I suppose this is where most of Konoha's censors train. I guess other trainees are occupying other rooms. I don't recall properly, but I think Konoha also had a facility that aided it to monitor the whole border of the village to look for intruders or something along those lines, though it was only shown in Shippuden and not in Part 1. I wonder if that facility is also in here, or is it someplace elsewhere?" Shin led Fujin in one of the rooms. The room was very dark. All walls were painted black. The room was pretty big too. On entering, Shin explained Fujin how to train to be able to sense with only the help of his chakra. He said, "A blindfold will be placed on you, and after the seals are activated, all sound and smell in the room will be eliminated. After that, a few objects will be placed in the room. These objects have a small amount of chakra sealed within them in a manner that it can be detected by sensors. So your job will be to detect these objects. We will start by placing the object 3 meters from you, and later increase the range to 5 meters and then to 7 meters. Once you are done with it, then I'll teach you how to increase the size of your chakra field." Fujin understood and thanked him. He started the training. The training continued till 12:30 with him having no success at all. At that time, Shin ended the training. He said that they'll daily train here for 2 hours and also gave him a few tips in order to make some progress. He also had a few words of encouragement for Fujin as he said that these things can't be sensed in a day and to not get very upset. He also provided Fujin with a small cubical object. He said, "This is one of the objects that I had asked you to sense. You can temporarily borrow this to practice at home. Though you won't be able to block your sense of smell and sound, however it shouldn't matter much as you don't specialize in either of those. So just try to practice with your blindfold on. Maybe ask someone else to place the square down somewhere after you have put the blindfold and sat in your meditative posture. That way you won't know where exactly the cube is beforehand. However, don't practice for very long." Fujin understood all what Shin said and nodded. He then thanked Shin and left for his home. With the academy over, he now had 7 additional hours he could use for training. The training at the facility, traveling to and fro and lunch took slightly less than 3 hours. Fujin allotted all the remaining 4 hours for chakra sensing training temporarily. In the Hokage office, Hiruzen looked at the custom-made seals on his desk. He sighed softly while thinking, Konoha's edge in Fuinjutsu is fading fast. With the annihilation of the Uzumaki clan and the passing away of Mito-sama, our progress in Fuinjutsu had almost come to a standstill. Kushina and Minato had just started to make progress, but they died too young. Now it almost took 2 whole days to get such a simple seal custom made for Fujin. The request is still quite surprising though. Genki did say that the kid was diligent, but asking for such seals at such a young age is incredibly rare. Only a few geniuses among the clans usually train with this. However, even they start at a later age in most cases. I do recall him glancing at Genki first before asking for the prize. I guess Genki was the one who suggested the idea to him. I guess I should have a nice chat with him when he visits me in a few hours. At 6 p.m., Fujin reached Hokage office and entered after knocking. He greeted respectfully while bowing his head slightly. "Good evening, Lord Hokage." Hiruzen was impressed by it, he thought. "Well, at least his manners are very good," he said. "Look up. Here are the seals you requested. This seal is a special seal designed by our village. It combines the features of a few basic seals in order to create a perfect tool to help train the bodies of our shinobi. You can manipulate the amount of pressure the seal puts on your body freely. The pressure is applied on the whole body." Fujin nodded and said, "Thank you, Lord Hokage." He then looked at the seal placed in front of him. The seal was engraved on a square-shaped paper. He thought, there is just one seal. I thought that there would be 4 or more seals to be applied on various parts of the 4 limbs and so on. I guess this seal is much more advanced. Sigh, I can't analyze this seal then. Still, it's better that I have to place this seal on myself and no one else has to make the seal on my body. This way the chances of someone creating issues will probably be lower. That said, I'm not supposed to know much about Fuinjutsu. He then looked up at Hokage and asked, "Lord Hokage, how do I use this seal?" Hiruzen replied, "Just place the seal on your chest. It should stick to your body. The seal is reusable, so you can remove it and put it again if you ever wanted to. But don't ever give this seal to anyone else." Fujin replied, "Yes, Lord Hokage. But how do I increase or decrease the pressure caused by the seal? Also, how much pressure can be applied by the seal?" Hiruzen chuckled at the curiosity of the youngster in front of him. He replied, "Just focus your chakra on the seal. It's similar to how you focus chakra on the leaf during leaf concentration exercise. Then you can decide whether to increase or decrease the pressure and it'll be done automatically. As for the maximum pressure, it can apply a lot. It is equivalent to wearing a body vest of 100 kilograms, 50 kilograms weights on each leg and 25 kilograms weights on each arm." Fujin was shocked with those numbers. He nearly cursed out, "Bastard, shouldn't you say that first?" However, he maintained control of his emotions. In order to keep up his act, he gulped and showed a bit of fear on his face. Hiruzen looked at Fujin's expression and smirked internally, thinking, well, this will ensure that he always uses that seal very carefully and doesn't harm himself with it. After that, Hiruzen talked a bit with Fujin. He tried to understand what caused Fujin to require these seals. He also asked about his daily life, whether his apartment is comfortable, whether he ate properly, and so on. He also made Fujin try controlling the pressure in his presence. He also explained some tips and precautions. For instance, he said that while sleeping, Fujin should always deactivate the seal. He also cautioned Fujin against using the seal while sparring or fighting, saying, if you get used to it, then you will find it hard to properly control your movements when you deactivate the seal. At the end, he praised Fujin's performance in the exams and let him go. After leaving, Fujin thought, 250 kilograms, huh? I really want to know if anyone actually uses it all. I do wonder how much weight Lee carried. The number was never mentioned in the series. While leaving the Hokage office, Fujin had already activated the seal. In front of Hiruzen, he kept the pressure very low. However, after leaving the Hokage building, he increased the pressure. He increased it to a level where it put a decent amount of strain on his body, while still being able to bear it. He ran all the way to his home and thought, finally, even this simple run was a challenge. Though I will probably have to reduce the pressure a bit in order to be able to complete the workout routine Genki provided. I suppose I'll have to test for a few days in order to get the pressure right. I can track my progress too, as I will know the percentage of max pressure applied by the seal. He also thought about what all Hiruzen told him and focused on 2 points. He specified to not use the seal while sleeping and fighting. I suppose not following the first one ain't an option. As for second, I can understand his point of view and concerns. If I do it, then trying to fight without that pressure will cause plenty of issues. Of course they can be fixed with some work, however if in the middle of a fight, it'll be deadly. However, Kagaya did have a high gravity dimension. So I should try to learn to fight under high pressure too. But there's no need to do it now. Maybe later on I could build a gravity chamber and practice there. That might be more effective. Still, I gotta admit that this seal is very good. It applies pressure throughout my body. The pressure on my legs is more than on my arms. Even my back feels the strain. I guess the seal is made in a way that every muscle is properly exercised, which would result in proper development of the whole body. There won't be any cases of some muscles being developed more and others being underdeveloped. I guess Hiruzen left out the specifics, not expecting me to understand them. This method is much superior to the weights Lee used. I guess I really need to be thankful to Genki. Though this does make me wonder why these guys haven't given the seal to every Konoha shinobi. Is it that hard to produce? Ending his train of thoughts, Fujin started to meditate. Chapter 16, Second Academic Year. Over the next few days, Fujin experimented with the pressure applied by the seal. He turned 7-year-old as well. It took him 4 days to be able to figure out the amount of pressure he could be under and still complete his workout. It was slightly over 2% of the seal's max capacity. He thought, wow, that's very low. Then again, I'm barely 7 years old now. Anyways, at least my physique should develop faster now. His sensor training continued as well. It took him 8 days to finally be able to sense the objects placed around him. Yamanaka Shin was a bit disappointed by the progress. He sighed and thought, 8 days, while it ain't bad, it's not very good either. He probably won't be able to be an exceptional sensor. Though with some work, he could be a decent one. While the time is slightly better than the average of other Konoha sensors, it lacks when compared to sensors from my clan. On average, we are able to sense the object on the 7th day, and the more talented ones do it even faster. Oh well, Konoha does severely lack sensors. Due to the existence of Hyuga, Aburame, and Inazuka clans, the village didn't really invest much into training sensors. Majority of Konoha's sensors come from my clan. Having another sensor, even just an average one, will be good for the village. After that, Shin moved the objects away from Fujin and placed them 4 to 5 meters away. As the basics were the same and the objects were still in his chakra field, he was able to sense it very quickly in less than half an hour. Shin was surprised by the speed. He moved the objects 7 meters away and the same thing repeated. This surprised Shin a lot. Well, this is surprising. Though on average a Yamanaka senses the objects on the 7th day, sensing after moving it away takes some time, with most going into the 8th day and a few even to the 9th day. I guess he has more talent than I thought, Fujin's thoughts were. While it did take a long time to detect after increasing range wasn't tough. The principles were the same and the object was still in my chakra field. I guess the next training would be to increase the size of my chakra field. He sighed slightly, thinking, I hope the training for it isn't as boring as this one. After the training was done, Shin said to Fujin, Not bad, you have progressed faster than I thought. Over the next 4 days, keep practicing the same at your home, so that you get more comfortable with sensing chakras in your field. I'll be out on a mission, so I won't meet you. Once I return, we will start training to increase the radius of your chakra field. Fujin thanked him and left. The next couple of months went in a similar manner. The training for increasing the chakra field included even longer hours of meditation. He had to focus on one point and try to increase the range in that direction. Fujin thought, this is going to take a long time. I guess over the vacation I should work on being able to train while also keeping my eyes open instead of putting up a blindfold. That way I can train for this in the class too. Otherwise, there will be no hope of continuing this training after academy restarts. Over the vacation, he kept up his physical workouts, which produced great results thanks to the seal. He also trained a lot in the substitution jutsu. His goal was to reduce the time required to perform it and also reduce the number of required hand signs from 5 to 0. While he didn't make any progress on reducing the number of hand signs, he was able to perform it much faster, being able to do it in less than a second, though he wasn't sure of the exact time due to having no instruments to measure it. For clone jutsu, he was able to create 3 clones, which if he recalled correctly, was the requirement for the Genin graduation exam. Transformation jutsu was progressing well too, as no one was able to see any issue with him when he was roaming in the streets while being transformed into others. But he hadn't yet tested it against someone who knew him. As for chakra control, he became capable of running freely on water surfaces. So he reduced the time allotted to it and only practiced it twice a week instead of daily. While he had some ideas to improve his chakra control even further, he decided to try them later so as to be able to focus more on ninjutsu. The wind nature transformation training had taken a step back as Fujin felt that he had trained enough for it. He thought, being able to cut a stone was probably on par with being able to cut a waterfall. Even on the metal, I'm able to leave small scratches on the surface. As for earth training, he had bought more clay to work on molding it and had also brought a small 1-foot rock in his home, which he attempted to crumble after being bored of sensor training. As for sensor training, after teaching Fujin how to increase the radius of his chakra field, the meetings with Shin were reduced to only twice a week. When the vacation ended, Fujin was able to instantly sense chakra if anyone stepped in his chakra field, unless that person had hidden his chakra. However, he had to actively focus to do that. If he didn't focus, then he wasn't able to sense anyone. However, he noticed that he was able to passively sense chakra in 0.6 meter radius around himself. Shin said that this was something every sensor developed over time, and was very important as this didn't require attention and the sensor could do other tasks simultaneously. His radius of chakra field increased to over 4 times of its initial size to slightly over 30 meters. Shin was quite impressed with the pace of his improvement. Shin also taught Fujin to be able to measure the amount of chakra in the ninjas in his chakra field. He explained its uses in identifying the threat level. But he also explained to not be entirely reliant on it as the amount of chakra can be hidden as well. He demonstrated to Fujin as to how he could reduce his chakra that others can sense, or even completely hide it to appear as a common civilian. Shin taught the same to Fujin too. Fujin had some success in hiding his chakra completely, though it wasn't perfect yet. However, trying to reduce it and putting up a facade of having a lower chakra level was very difficult as his chakra would fluctuate a lot. On the other hand, Fujin was able to sense chakra without restricting any of his senses or without having to use the hand sign or even while moving around. However, without the hand sign, the radius of the chakra field used to reduce to around 25 meters, and while moving around, it went down to merely 17 meters. It showed that he still had a lot of work to do. On the last day of vacation, Shin said, "You have improved a lot. In the future, you can easily become a good sensor with some more training. So keep working on it. We won't have any more training sessions, but feel free to approach me if you have anything to clarify." Fujin thanked him for all his help over the past 2 months and took his leave. He also returned the chakra objects that he had borrowed. Fujin was really grateful to him. Though Fujin's capabilities as a censor were still very poor, in the past 2 months, Shin had drilled all the basics of being a censor into him. Now he merely needed to put more efforts into becoming a good censor. The new year in the academy finally started. Genki was again our class teacher. Fujin guessed that he'll be the class teacher until they became Genin. The new year started with another brainwashing lecture. Fujin, not wanting to waste any time, employed the art he had mastered in his previous life and remastered in this one, the art of faking attention in a lecture. He moved his attention to his chakra field. His plan was to focus on increasing the radius of his chakra field. But upon sensing others, he decided to compare everyone's chakra levels first. After noticing everyone's chakra levels, he concluded, "Wow, my chakra reserves are really very good. The efforts taken over the previous year and a half have really been very fruitful. It's good to finally be able to see the results of my efforts." As for others, Fujin noted that on average the chakra levels of the civilian students and students from Nara, Yamanaka, Kato, Hataki, Sarutobi, and Kurama clans is lower than others. Comparatively, students from Hyuga, Akimichi, Inazuka, Aburame, and Uchiha clans have slightly more chakra. In all, Uchiha Yori's chakra is the 6th highest in the class, while Hyuga Hoka ranked 7th. While that was what he expected, the one with the 5th highest chakra surprised him. He thought, now that's surprising. The 5th highest chakra level is of Shimura Nobu. I guess Danzo really has a proper training system for kids from his clan. As for the ones at the top, there was no surprise. He thought, sigh, these Senjus are really blessed with high chakra reserves. Even the two who aren't that talented have their chakra reserves almost 50% greater than that of Yori. Whereas Teru's chakra reserves are more than twice that of Yori. It's even larger than mine. Anyways, the chakra levels of everyone is just as expected. Only Nobu was an exception. Which implies that they haven't started to do any training to increase their reserves. Makes sense though, as they are only 7 years old. Anyways, if he doesn't focus on increasing his chakra level, I should be able to increase my chakra reserves to become larger than Teru's. He then tried to measure the chakra level of Genki. On measuring it, he thought, I see, his and Shin's chakra reserves are very similar to each other. I guess there isn't much difference between an elite Chunin and a special Jounin. It's just that a special Jounin has a skill that is at Jounin level, while the rest of his skills are only at elite Chunin level. For Shin, it is his capabilities as a censor that I gotta agree that becoming a censor is very convenient. Unless the ones being sensed are censors too, there's little chance of anyone realizing that they are being sensed. Though I suppose all of the Kage-level ninjas would have mastered this to a certain extent. Oh well, it's not like I'm planning to hunt any Kages. Anyways, enough with this class. I should check the ones from other classes, especially the ones who will be becoming Genin this year. While the 25-meter radius of my chakra field is pretty insignificant in an open field, in a compact building it covers a lot. With those thoughts, he started to focus on chakras outside his classroom. He first observed the classroom in which he had seen Daisuke run in. Noticing the chakra levels of the students there, he observed that they were really low. He then focused on the room where he knew the classes for senior most batches happen. He measured their chakras. He observed that there were a few with really pitiful chakra levels. He guessed that most of them won't become Genin. On average, however, their chakra level was only 20% higher than Teru's. Though there were a few having much higher chakra levels. Fujin guessed that those kids were from the Senju clan too. Fujin concluded, I see. I suppose by the end of this academic year, my chakra reserves should become high enough and could be considered Genin level. And I know all the 3 basic jutsus too. So in terms of chakra and ninjutsu, I should reach Genin level in a year. Even taijutsu should reach that stage in less than 2 years. But that won't be enough to actually pass the graduation exam. The graduation exam has so much more than just taijutsu and ninjutsu. There's training on moving stealthily, setting up an encampment, incapacitating a target, freeing yourself if you are captured, using a first aid kit, even hunting, cleaning and cooking a wild animal, and a lot more that will be taught in the academy. Without all that knowledge and training, becoming a ninja might well be suicide. Not to mention, actually trying to graduate so early would be stupid. Itachi was a different case. He is the son of the Uchiha patriarch. I, on the other hand, am merely an orphan. It would attract a lot of unwanted attention. In addition, just from the point of view of ninjutsu, I still have so much more to learn. I still have to learn a few more basic jutsus like body flicker, and not to mention I still have to learn wind and earth-style jutsus. Apart from that, I'm almost entirely blank when it comes to genjutsu and have a lot to learn in kenjutsu. So there's no point in graduating until I have gained everything I could from the academy. If I ever reach a point where I can't make much progress due to being in the academy, then I'll consider graduating early. After considering all that, Fujin finally focused on increasing the radius of his chakra field. The remaining lecture went in a similar boring manner. However, at the end of the lecture Genki said something that excited some of his fellow students. He said, "This year we will start learning ninjutsu." Chapter 17, Body Flicker. Fujin wasn't surprised by that news. He had already gathered enough information about the academy in the previous year. For normal students, the ninjutsu training began in their 3rd year. However, for the elite batches, it began in their 2nd year. Having already learnt the 3 basic jutsus, he wasn't much interested in the news. Though he did have a concern, he thought, I'll have to hide the fact that I can use these jutsus. I'll need to learn how to fail at these jutsus. And have to do it in a manner that doesn't give me any bad habits. I suppose I could just make hand signs without molding my chakra, or maybe mold chakra for a few of the hand signs without molding it for one. I'll have to test that first. When around 7 to 8 are able to perform the jutsu, I'll show that I have just managed to do them too. In the first week, Genki just revised what they had learnt in the previous year and tested all the students. However, seeing the progress of some of the students had left Fujin speechless. Genki too was surprised, but it was a joyous surprise for him that in the leaf concentration exercise, Hana, Teru and Nobu all were able to hold the leaf for more than half an hour, while Yori and Hoka exceeded 25 minutes. Fujin had dropped his leaf after 36 minutes, in order to not attract any suspicion. His thoughts were, damn. If they keep up this competitive nature, they may well reach beyond 1 hour by the end of this year. While it's reasonable to expect me to keep up, I should instead show that I've slacked off and not made much progress. While Genki might get a bit suspicious if he ever asks me, I'll just say I felt bad for them and am letting them win. Genki was very impressed too. He thought, for kids were able to stick the leaf for over half an hour, another 2 should be able to reach that in another couple of months. This batch is good. I guess that Fujin brat spurred them all on. They might actually be able to do tree climbing and even water walking before they graduate. Oh, this is so nice, I could get a huge bonus from the Hokage. The shuriken competition didn't give much insights on their growth, as many were already doing very well in the previous year. The taijutsu tournament, however, didn't show that much improvement for everyone. Among the ones at the top, only Yori and Nobu made significant progress. Fujin guessed that it was only because of his performance in the leaf concentration exam that made everyone focus a lot on it. However, the Inuzukas were performing much better than last year and were very aggressive too. Due to the poor scores of all 3 Inuzukas in the exams, they were given some special training by their clan in order to not embarrass the clan any further. In one of the spars, one Inuzuka kid screamed, "I'll defeat you no matter what. There's no way I will go through that training in my clan ever again." Hearing that, the other 2 Inuzuka students winced. Fujin, getting a hint of what would have happened, thought, this world is in a severe need of laws punishing child abuse. Sadly for that Inuzuka student, he still got mercilessly beaten into the ground by Nobu, which made everyone feel pity for the poor kid. The taijutsu tournament, however, did provide Fujin with the opportunity to finally test his progress. And he was very pleased with the results. After deactivating the seals, his body moved a lot faster, and his blows carried more weight. He tied against Teru in their match. After the first week was done, Fujin entered the library and went into Section D. He thought, I've probably tried the substitution jutsu over 1,000 times. I'm still not able to reduce the hand signs needed for it. Honestly, jutsu is almost completely useless against ninjas if you have to make those hand signs. Even a random genin would be able to identify the jutsu and be on alert. Though I guess it might still work on normal bandits. Anyways, I guess I'll need a few years to be able to reduce the number of hand signs needed. So let's just move on to a new jutsu. He quickly started searching for the jutsu he wanted to learn. He was quite excited to learn it as it was one of his favorites. On finding it, he read out softly, the body flicker jutsu. He found a place to sit and read the scroll. After reading and analyzing it, he concluded, this jutsu can be called both easy and complicated at the same time. It's easy as there is only one hand sign required. The tiger seal. So the way of molding chakra is very simple. And it's complicated as actually performing this technique is quite difficult. I would have to focus a lot of chakra in my legs to be able to move at such high speeds. According to the scroll, initially I'll only be able to flicker a few meters away. Only when I'm able to flicker a 100 meters away would I be considered to have learnt this jutsu. It is also mentioned to use something like smoke or leaves just before using this jutsu so that the enemy doesn't understand the direction in which you flicker to. Also, it is very important to ensure not to run into someone or something while using this jutsu. I suppose me being a sensor might help a bit in this regard. However, there's no such thing as the maximum distance one can flicker away. Instead, it is the amount of time you can sustain this jutsu. I thought that I'll need to learn to be able to flicker many times consecutively if I want the help of this jutsu to be able to escape. However, instead it is the amount of time you can maintain this jutsu. So if I'm able to flicker 100 meters away in a second and am able to sustain this jutsu for 10 seconds, I'll be able to run a kilometer away. But this is good, I suppose. It's more convenient than having to flicker again and again. After learning the whole process from the scroll, Fujin left the library. He transformed into a random 13-year-old stranger in an empty alleyway, and then ran into a nearby mini-forest. He then ran around in that mini-forest while trying to sense if any chakra is present around him. After that he thought, alright, this forest is clear. Also I'm under a disguise. So I can start training. While a forest isn't the best place to train body flicker, but since the amount of distance I can flicker initially will be low, there shouldn't be an issue. Though I'll need to train in open spaces once I start to flicker long distances away. And he started training for this jutsu. The months went on in a peaceful manner for Fujin. His physique kept improving due to the seal. He used to increase the pressure of the seal by 0.1% from time to time. In the academy, Genki started ninjutsu with the transformation technique. Fujin had experimented and found it easy to fake hand signs without molding his chakra. However, he felt that it was wasteful. So he tried another trick. He started faking the first hand sign, but while changing the hand sign to the second seal, he used to try to mold the chakra for the first seal without the aid of the first hand sign. In this manner, he practiced to do those jutsus with one hand sign less. As expected, Teru and Yori were the most talented in ninjutsu. They competed for the top 2 spots. Nobu, no matter how hard he tried, only ranked 3rd. Hoka, Hana and the Aburame Kid competed for ranks 4 to 6. Fujin ranked himself 10th in transformation jutsu, 7th in clone jutsu and 8th in substitution jutsu. It took him a month to be able to do the body flicker jutsu despite learning the way to mold chakra within just 3 days. Even then, he was only able to flicker for a few meters. Over the next month, instead of trying to increase the range, he instead worked on increasing the speed of performing the jutsu, and also managed to pull it off without using any hand signs. In a single month, he probably practiced that jutsu thousands of times to be able to do that. Next, he worked on increasing the range of the jutsu. It took him 4.5 months in all to reach 100 meters with body flicker. He then started focusing on sustaining the body flicker for a longer period. Sometime around this time, the incident of Kumo trying to kidnap Hinata and the death of Hizashi happened. Both Hoka and Hana were very solemn the next day. In order to properly measure his progress, he bought a stopwatch. After 6 months, he was able to flicker 400 meters away in less than 4 seconds. After that he thought, my original plan was to start with elemental jutsu by now, but body flicker does have more applications I want to explore. Let's stick to it. Mastering body flicker to a high degree will be extremely essential later on. He continued with his body flicker training. By the time the exams for 2nd year were up, Fujin had managed to sustain his body flicker for 12.76 seconds and managed to cover 1.9 kilometers. He could also change the direction midway, though he couldn't do it very frequently, and could also perform flicker while in a forest and having to avoid running into a tree. He was extremely pleased with his progress. Over at the academy, he had managed to reduce the hand signs required for transformation and clone jutsus by 1, and for substitution jutsu, he was close to reducing it by 2. His chakra field had increased a lot during this year. Its radius had increased to 180 meters. Without the hand sign it reached 162 meters, and while running at normal speed, it could reach 135 meters. His chakra reserves too had grown exponentially. Physical training and meditation itself were a huge boost. On top of it, he had practiced body flicker till he dropped on a daily basis. He had performed body flicker for tens of thousands of times over the past 9 months. His reserves now exceeded Teru's. On comparing it with the senior-most batch, he noticed that his reserves would be well above average in that class, probably entering top 10. Only 2 students, probably from the Senju clan, exceed him considerably. Even then, he was sure that in another year, he would surpass their current chakra level. He thought, I guess it's time to ask Hiruzen for the Shadow Clone Jutsu. A/N, I would like to clarify the Shadow Clone Jutsu a bit. Shadow Clone Jutsu isn't a forbidden jutsu, it's merely a B-rank jutsu which jounins can learn easily. In Naruto, it was shown that a Genin Konohamaru was able to perform shadow clones and use Rasengan on one of the pains. Even Kiba, while being a Chunin, perform a shadow clone. The jutsu in the Forbidden Scroll of Sealing was the multi-shadow clone jutsu. This is the one which Naruto spams and Kakashi had used to scare/bluff away Gato's thugs. So I'll follow this pattern. Someone with Genin level chakra can create 1 to 2 shadow clones, with Chunin level chakra can create 3 to 5 shadow clones, and with a Jounin level chakra can create more than 5 shadow clones. The increase in his chakra level could be seen when he was finally able to burst the rubber ball, finally making progress in the stage 2 of Rasengan training. However, he was only barely able to burst it. He still needed more chakra to be able to actually perform Rasengan. His skill at throwing shurikens had increased too. He was now able to hit the board while running around and was also able to hit a moving board. In order to allow students to practice that, a board used to be suspended from a tree branch and moved. It worked like a pendulum. However, he still struggled to hit a moving board while he was running himself. Fujin decided that after he managed to do that, he'll start practicing to hit his clones with shuriken, as that would replicate battle scenarios even better. Something that Fujin gained while practicing in the many mini-forests in Konoha was shurikens and kunais lying around. He had found 23 shuriken and 11 kunai. However, 7 shuriken and 4 kunai were very badly damaged, leaving him with 16 shuriken and 7 kunai. He handled them with extreme care, not touching any directly in case they were coated with poison. He thought, well, this is convenient. Though these are used weapons, they are still very usable. However, I need to wash them properly in order to remove any sense of previous users and in case there's any poison applied on them. Still, I've been in these forests for so long and only found so few of these. I guess everyone collects them back after using them as they aren't cheap. Maybe others like me too roam around trying to find them. He sighed, whatever, these many should be enough for me to practice, and soon it was time for the second-year exams. Chapter 18, Second-Year Exams. As Fujin had expected, the whole marking system for their class had been revamped. He wondered if the same also happened for other elite batches. As for the overall exams, the written exam had 100 points, leaf concentration competition had 20 points, shuriken throwing competition had 20 points, each of the 3 ninjutsu had 10 points each, and the taijutsu tournament had 30 points. In the written exam, he noticed that it had 5 divisions among itself, each being more difficult than the previous. While it wasn't very hard for him, he had no doubt that 8-year-olds from his previous world wouldn't even pass this exam. Seeing how difficult the exam was, he purposefully made a mistake in 2 questions worth 2 marks each. For leaf concentration, the same marking system as the previous year followed. Yori Hoka crossed 45 minutes, Nobu dropped at 56th minute, Teru at 59th minute. Hana crossed 1 hour and held it for another 4 minutes. Fujin, knowing that the written exam this year was tougher and not expecting anyone to score full, dropped his leaf after 1 hour 11 minutes. The shuriken exam also had multiple layers like the written exam. The first was to throw 8 shurikens at a stationary target board. The second was to run alternately to the right and left to a circle drawn on the ground and throw from the circle while running. The third was to hit at the target board that was hanging and swinging like a pendulum. Each of these stages were worth 4 points each. The last stage, worth 8 points, had white plates being launched in the air by Genki. The plates were spinning incredibly fast, causing them to not move at a set path and deviating slightly. Yori, Teru, Fujin, Nobu, Hoka scored max in the first 3 rounds. Hana struggled in the second round, while scoring full in first and third. The 4th round, however, was tough. 19 students didn't manage to hit even one. And 6, including Hana, managed to hit just one. Fujin guessed that most of them just scored a lucky hit. Fujin had been observing the plates all the time to try and see a pattern in them. He got some hints, but not enough, and it resulted in him wishing, "Damn, if only I had a Sharingan." Hoka and Fujin just hit 2. Nobu hit 3 plates, Teru managed to hit 4, and Yori managed to hit 7 of the 8 plates thrown by Genki. Fujin was quite impressed by Yori's performance, especially considering that he hadn't yet awakened his Sharingans. After the competition, Yori returned to his smug self. Ninjutsu exams, transformation and substitution jutsu were analyzed and marked by Genki. For clone jutsu, they were marked depending upon the maximum number of acceptable clones anyone made. Teru made 5 clones, and looking at his chakra, Fujin was confident no one else would exceed him. So he created 4 clones. Fujin hid his skills in this exam as he knew that Hana wasn't very good in this aspect, and no one apart from her would come close to his score in written exams. The Taijutsu tournament was similar to the previous year. Only major differences being the Inuzukas performing much better and Fujin having a much stronger body. Right now he could have the seal apply 5.3% of its max pressure. It had improved his physique a lot. He trashed through the majority of his opponents. This time he ran into Teru in the semifinals and managed to beat him. While Hoka beat Hana in his fight. Yori beat Nobu for rank 5, whereas Teru beat Hana for rank 3. Against Hoka, the fight was very intense. To Fujin's surprise, his advantage in physique wasn't that great. In the end, he still lost to Hoka. He thought, is he too using seals or something similar to strengthen his body? His performance in ninjutsu isn't as good as his taijutsu, and it's better to not talk of his performance in written exams looking at previous year's scores. Sigh, I guess all he does is train in taijutsu. And my main focus has been on ninjutsu. Little wonder that I can't beat him. After the scores were tallied, the results of the top 5 were Fujin, 96 plus 20 plus 14 plus 23 plus 29 equals 182 Teru, 81 plus 17 plus 16 plus 30 plus 28 equals 172 Nobu, 86 plus 16 plus 15 plus 28 plus 25 equals 170 Hana, 91 plus 18 plus 12 plus 21 plus 27 equals 169 Yori, 79 plus 14 plus 19 plus 28 plus 26 equals 166. After looking at the results, Genki thought, this is pretty similar to last year. Only difference is that instead of the leaf concentration competition, Fujin built his lead in the written exam. How much does this kid study exactly? The last 20 marks were quite tough to get. As for the rest, Teru was the one who performed the best overall. Except for the written exam, he is in the top 3 of every exam. Leaf concentration competition is still dominated by Fujin. But with the performance of the others, I can start tree walking exercise next year. In the shuriken throwing competition, Yori was in a league of his own. Same with Hoka in the taijutsu tournament. Though that seal did help Fujin a lot. I guess I should suggest to Teru's parents to get the T-seal for him as well. It will help him a lot. In ninjutsu, Teru, Yori and Nobu are all excellent. Just that Teru has more chakra than the other 2. And I'm pretty sure that they do no more jutsus as well. This class has performed really well. The top 8 to 12 students are all very good. Lord Third should be very happy with their performance. After he was done thinking, he put up the results on display. Looking at it, everyone had mixed reactions. Since the exam markings were made to ensure that the ones who perform well stand out, the ones who didn't work hard scored very low. A few still struggled to hit a stationary target board with shuriken, so there was no way they could do much in the remaining 3 rounds. There were a few who didn't manage to learn even one ninjutsu properly. And the majority didn't get all the 3 ninjutsu down. There were only 12 students who could do that. The written exams were very tough too. The last 20 marks being very difficult to get and even the 20 marks before that being significantly difficult. Fujin did note the disappointed expressions of the ones who scored very bad. It reminded him of how much worse the life of the kids here was when compared to his previous world. And even then these were considered to be very good conditions. At least they didn't have to fight in a war. Among the toppers, Yori was upset thinking, why am I still ranked only 5th? Still, I have at least shown everyone how good the Uchiha are at shuriken technique. But that's not enough. Hana was incredibly upset with tears almost forming in her eyes. She was upset at her rank dropping from 2nd to 4th. Nobu didn't show any emotions, however, even he was upset at not being able to top the exam. Teru sighed looking at the scores. Last year it was the leaf concentration competition, and this time the written exam. Sucks to not be rank 1 due to the written exams. Still, at least I'm the best when it comes to the skills required on the field. Not to mention that the exam didn't consider the water-style jutsus I know. Fujin looked at the results showing a happy expression. His thoughts were, well, this went as expected. Though I'm surprised that some guys scored over 80 on the written exam. I guess the brains of the kids here develop faster. My shuriken still requires some work, but that's fine. In taijutsu I doubt I'll be able to surpass Hoka unless he slacks off. In ninjutsu I'm on par with Teru and others. Heck, I could have made 8 clones and decreased their scores if I wanted to, but there was no need for it. So it's going good. Next I should focus on elemental jutsus. However, then he frowned mentally thinking, still, the performance of the kids in this exam has been so good that I'm worried they may make a few of us graduate early. I'm glad that Genki hasn't started teaching about all the other important stuff yet. I guess his plan was to allow everyone to learn ninjutsu and fighting skills first, so that they can keep improving them over the years. Though with the pace at which he has been going, it makes me wonder if he wants to make us graduate early or teach us more complicated stuff. Genki looked at the expression of all his students and sighed. He noticed that only Fujin had a happy expression, Nobu was expressionless as always and Teru just looked a bit down. Almost everyone else was incredibly upset. He sighed, I got excited and made the marking system really in favor of the geniuses. Last year's results made them more competitive, however this year's might have a detrimental effect. I'll need to talk individually with everyone in order to pacify and cheer them up, so that they take this exam results as a motivation to do better in the future. He then glanced at the Inuzuka kids. I guess I should call their parents too. The exams ended with another brainwashing speech by Hiruzen. He called Fujin forward and asked him what reward he wanted this time. Fujin stepped forward and said, Lord Hokage, could I get to learn the Shadow Clone Jutsu? Hiruzen was really surprised by this request. He asked, where did you hear about the Shadow Clone Jutsu? And why do you want to learn it? Fujin showed an excited expression and said, Lord Hokage, we were told that the second Hokage had started this academy. So I became quite interested in him and hence read a lot about his life and everything he did. On understanding more about him I was very inspired by him. And when I read that he had created the Shadow Clone Jutsu, I became very interested in it. Also, the jutsu seems very useful. Having a clone that can actually do something will be very helpful. He then looked at Hiruzen with expectations. Hiruzen looked at the excitement shown by the young student in front of him. Looking at the respect he had shown to his sensei, he emotionally thought, Sensei, even after being dead for decades, your will of fire still inspires the kids in Konoha. Hiruzen had sensed his chakra level during the taijutsu tournament. Fujin, wanting to ask for the Shadow Clone Jutsu, didn't bother hiding his real chakra level. Hiruzen thought, his chakra level is sufficient to be barely able to form one shadow clone. Fine, I'll give it to him, but I need to warn him about the dangers of that technique. Hiruzen nodded and said, Alright, I'll prepare the scroll for you. Come to my office tomorrow at noon. Fujin showed that he was even more excited on hearing that and thanked him immediately. However, on the inside he was quite shocked. He thought, that's it? A few good words about Tobirama and he agreed? Should I have asked for Flying Thunder God or Impure World Resurrection? He sighed internally and further thought, then again, Shadow Clone isn't really a very complex jutsu. It is just B rank and even elite chunins can easily access it from the library. Also, my respect for Tobirama was genuine. Unlike Hiruzen, he did do his job properly. Though how he died in war despite knowing Flying Thunder God is a mystery to me. So Hiruzen wouldn't be able to pick up on anything. And Tobirama creating that jutsu is written down in scrolls about him in the library. So I guess there wasn't much to be suspicious about. With those thoughts, he walked back to his fellow students. Genki then announced about meeting with everyone personally tomorrow and gave everyone a time slot. He asked them to bring at least one parent along. Chapter 19, Shadow Clone Jutsu. The following day, Genki was very busy with the counseling of all his students. Fujin was the first one in at 8 a.m. as Genki had set the schedule according to their ranks. Seeing Fujin, Genki's thoughts were, this kid has done well. But he is only an orphan. I don't think he has any idea how vast this world is. Even though he ranked first twice consecutively, there is still a lot he needs to do. I need to ensure that he doesn't get arrogant and lose his way. Fujin first greeted him. Good morning, sensei. Genki replied, good morning. Congrats on performance yesterday. Fujin smiled and replied, thank you, sensei, and took his seat. Genki smiled and then quickly got serious. He said, so this meeting is in order to review your performance until now and to see what you should do in the vacation and in the next year. Of all the students from this class, I have interacted with you the most, so don't worry and listen to my advice properly. Feel free to ask all your doubts. Fujin nodded. Genki continued, your performance has been very good so far. With you ranking first in both years, that is very obvious. However, in both exams it was only due to you scoring very well in one exam that you ranked first. Fujin nodded seriously, while thinking, I'm not even 8 years old yet. Should you be having such a serious talk with me? Are 8-year-olds supposed to understand this? Genki on the other hand thought, the kid didn't get upset? He is more mature than other kids his age. Genki continued, so you will have to put more focus on other areas. Tell me, what do you do after the lecture is over? Also, what do you do on weekends? Fujin had already guessed that such a question might be asked, though he had thought something like this would have been asked long back. He replied, Sensei, I mostly study what you taught in class, try to understand it. Then I train on the ninjutsu you taught us, or I do leaf concentration exercise. And before sleeping I meditate. On the weekends I study a lot and also train on my sensor skills. What Fujin said was a properly thought-out answer he had prepared long back. Showing a major focus at studying would explain why his scores in written exams were so high. The listener would think that he spent most of his time studying. He said that he spent very little time on ninjutsu, which would justify his slightly lower scores there. While his meditation along with morning exercises would be the reason for the high growth in his chakra levels. The answer also showed that he was a very diligent student. Genki wasn't surprised with the answer. He had guessed that it'll be something along these lines considering Fujin's performance. He said, I see. Now let's look at your performance this year. You have done very well in the written exam, chakra control and taijutsu. However, your ninjutsu needs a lot of work. So over the next 2 months, you should focus on improving the 3 ninjutsu I taught. Also, even after the 3rd year begins, spend more time on learning ninjutsu and less time on studying. After all, in the future when you do missions, it'll be a lot more important than what you read. Fujin nodded, inwardly surprised, thinking, that's a first. No adult has ever told me to study less. Especially not a teacher. Genki was satisfied with his words being listened to seriously. He had a little gift in order to get Fujin work more on ninjutsu. He said, I know that you have asked Lord Hokage for Shadow Clone Jutsu. So do learn it properly, in the future it'll be very helpful. However, I have a little gift for you. Saying this, he put a paper in front of Fujin. On seeing that paper, Fujin sighed internally, I wasted my 100 ryo, and then asked curiously, Sensei, what's this? Genki replied, this is chakra paper. It'll tell you what your chakra nature is. Here, pass some of your chakra through it. Fujin did it. The chakra paper split into 2. He gave Genki a puzzled look. Genki then explained a bit more about chakra paper and said that Fujin's chakra nature was wind. Fujin nodded excitedly despite already knowing it. Genki said, the way to train your wind nature is that you should take a leaf and try to cut it with your chakra alone. It may take a few months to do it. Once it is done, you can then use wind-style jutsus. Fujin nodded again. Genki also informed Fujin that Yori and Teru could already perform elemental jutsu in order to rouse his competitive spirit. After some more discussion, Fujin took his leave. He was a bit sick of having to feign ignorance of the stuff he already knew. Still, he was a bit glad of this discussion. He would have a proper excuse if anyone in the future asked him about when he trained in wind style. Sadly, he'll still have to repeat this again today. Genki spent the remaining of his day counseling 14 other students, while the other 15 were scheduled for tomorrow. He had such advice for everyone else. Teru was advised to get the same seal as Fujin. He didn't have much advice for Nobu, so he just tried to get him to be more social. For Hana, he consoled her a bit due to how upset she was. Then he informed her that she put a lot more focus on her rank instead of important aspects. He told her to reduce her time spent on studying and leaf concentration as the majority of her time was spent on it. Instead, he asked her to focus more on ninjutsu and taijutsu. For Yori, he strongly suggested his parents to ensure that he meditates for at least an hour daily. For Hoka, the advice was to focus more on academics. And in a similar way, the advice continued all day as well as the day after. At noon, Fujin visited Hokage's office. Hiruzen handed him a scroll saying, "This scroll has the shadow clone jutsu. You are not allowed to share this scroll with anyone else and have to return it to me after you have learnt it." Fujin nodded. Hiruzen then talked a bit about the shadow clone jutsu. He warned Fujin, for the time being and maybe for the next year, don't ever try to create more than one shadow clone. Also, when you dispel the clone, all its memories will be transferred to you. And that might cause you a huge headache. So always be careful while dispelling your clones. Also, don't use shadow clones while you are sleeping. It'll be very bad for your health. Fujin nodded and thanked him again. Hiruzen then talked a bit about Tobirama and Fujin had to feign interest in listening to it. After half an hour of stories, Hiruzen finally let Fujin go. Fujin sighed and complained, "Isn't a Hokage supposed to be super busy with his paperwork? Why did he have so much time to talk with me?" 2 consecutive sessions of having to feign ignorance as well as interest had Fujin a bit tired. He decided to skip his ration bars and instead went to Ichiraku for lunch. His thoughts were, "Fuck it, I have saved decent amount of money, I can afford to treat myself for today." Soon after lunch, he started training for the Shadow Clone Jutsu. After reading it properly, he thought, "This is easily the most difficult jutsu I have seen yet. The process of molding chakra is very complicated. Makes me wonder how did that brat learn it in less than a day." However, this shadow clone is a bit more flexible than the one in Naruto. Chakra doesn't necessarily have to be distributed evenly among my clones. It is up to the caster's will and capabilities in deciding how many % of his chakra must each clone have. He could create them with equal chakra to hide himself, or give it more or less chakra depending on the need. Another difference is the dispelling the clone won't return all its chakra to the original body. Instead, there is some chakra loss that happens during this process. As the jutsu is mastered, this loss reduces, however it won't ever go down to 0. So in the future, I need to be careful in the amount of clones I make. Otherwise, I could run out of chakra very quickly. On finishing his analysis, he began learning shadow clone technique. Knowing the basic clone jutsu helped a bit. The training continued for a while. Fujin noted that this training drained his chakra very fast. He could only practice for an hour before he was out of chakra. So from the next day he practiced shadow clone jutsu as soon as he got up, then around noon, and finally again in the evening, getting 3 hours of training done while doing either physical exercises or meditation for the remainder of the time. He also carried a few leaves with him. On the 9th day he was finally able to make a clone. Fujin noted that while molding the chakra is more difficult, its execution was much easier than the body flicker jutsu. After another 6 days he was finally able to create an acceptable clone. It was entirely identical and took half of his chakra. However, on sensing, Fujin noted that some chakra was lost while creating the clone, resulting in the clone having slightly less chakra. This wasn't acceptable. However, he decided to test the clone first. He asked the clone to go into the bedroom and write any random number somewhere and then dispel. The clone went into the bedroom and wrote 8196 on a scroll there. On dispelling, Fujin got all the information and checked if it was true. He thought, alright, it works. He made another shadow clone. This time he stabbed the clone's arm with a kunai, causing the clone to dispel. He waited for a few seconds and then concluded, alright, I just got the memories of the clone. The pain wasn't transferred to me. So this jutsu should be safe to use in battle. He then formed the clone again and this time had the clone do the 3 basic jutsus. The clone could perform them as good as he could. He couldn't test body flicker at his home, so he decided to leave it for later. He then had the clone perform shadow clone. The clone managed to do it, but within a second they were both dispelled. Fujin sensed that their chakra was very unstable. On thinking, he came to the conclusion, the clones were dispelled as they didn't have enough chakra. Even though a ninja could make a shadow clone with a small % of his chakra, the shadow clone still needs to have some minimum chakra level. And my single clone probably barely exceeds that limit. Wait, does that mean after using a few jutsus, my clone will disappear even if it has some chakra just because the chakra isn't enough? This conclusion had him on alert. He quickly rushed into a mini forest nearby. After transforming and confirming no one was around, he made a shadow clone. The clone, knowing the plan, started performing body flicker again and again within the main body's chakra field as the main body kept a track of its chakra level. The clone had around 49% of Fujin's chakra. When it fell down below 41%, the clone dispelled. Having confirmed his theory, Fujin sighed, "I guess it is impossible to have the clone assist me in ninjutsu training. Though to be honest, it's kinda pointless too as I can't last long on ninjutsu training without having my chakra depleted." After spending half a minute grumbling about his low chakra reserves, he decided, well, whatever. This was expected. Hopefully someday in the future I'll be able to use clones to train. Let's just learn this jutsu properly and be done. In the next 5 days he had learnt the shadow clone to an acceptable level. Now no loss of chakra happened while forming the clone. As for the chakra loss while getting chakra back from the clone, it was around 5%. Fujin noticed that it was reducing quickly. With the work on shadow clone done, he decided that it was time to finally start practicing elemental jutsus. Though he decided to wait for another 10 days before he returned the scroll to Hiruzen. That way Hiruzen would underestimate his talent a bit. Chapter 20, Wind Release Jutsu 1-N. The number of wind-style jutsu in canon is pitiful. Even the fillers mostly have similar variants of canon jutsu with very little change, but do the same shit. So I'll be using wind jutsu from games or even fan-created ones. I'll also make up some wind jutsu at some point later in this fanfic. On the 21st day of his vacation, Fujin made his way to the library. On the road he thought about a lot of wind-style jutsu. His thoughts were, finally I'll be starting with wind release jutsu. In the series, wind was probably the least powerful element. Though Naruto had wind nature, all he used was Raisin Shuriken. Temari did have a lot of jutsu, but she used a giant fan. Kakuzu used pressure damage, which was very lethal. I think there was also Great Breakthrough used by Orochimaru and probably Gale Palm used by someone. And lastly, Danzo used his vacuum jutsu, which were very lethal. Sadly, other than Temari, no one else specialized in wind jutsu. And the number of wind jutsu were very low too. Luckily this world does have a lot more wind release jutsu. I might be able to form a comprehensive battle system through it. Last time I just read their names. This time I'll be reading their scrolls too. And then decide the set of jutsu to practice. Still I wish I could have got to read the descriptions of higher ranked wind jutsu as well. It'd have been very helpful in order to decide. On reaching there, he went through entire sections E and D and made a list of all available wind release jutsu. They were Gale Jutsu, E. Wind Clone, E. Wind Levitation, E. Projectile Control Jutsu, E. Wind Retrieving Jutsu, E. Gale Surge, D. Breakthrough, D. Dust Cloud, D. Slashing Wind Skill, D. Wind Explosion, D. Propelling Winds, D. The first question for Fujin was, why was Wind Clone merely a rank E jutsu? On reading the scroll, he understood why. Wind Clone was extremely simple. Elemental clones were like normal clones, just that they were made of elements. That's why they could perform attacks. They got dispelled upon getting hit. Since the material needed for a wind clone was basically the air around, it was extremely simple to make it. However, it was still quite useful, and something he definitely was going to learn. He continued reading the rest of the jutsu to understand what they did. He first read all the Ranki jutsu. After reading them he analyzed, these jutsu aren't lethal. Actually they don't have much use in battle either if compared to other jutsu. Instead, I think that they are the means to improve the control of the wind element. I think they will be very important in the future when I will be learning more complex and powerful wind jutsu. Wind levitation is basically using winds in order to raise inanimate objects in the air. The way, GHT of the object that can be levitated and the height to which it can be carried as well as the time for which it can be levitated depends on the user's control over the wind element as well as their stamina and focus. Projectile control jutsu uses wind to control the projectiles launched around the user. So a shuriken or a thrown kunai or senbon can be manipulated to change direction with the help of winds. Wind retrieving jutsu uses winds to pull objects towards the user. It's similar to Nagato's universal pull, except it's done with the help of winds and power depends entirely on the user. And Gale Jutsu just creates a small wind flow in a direction. It doesn't cause any harm, but has a couple of good uses. For example, it could be used to cover up any footsteps left behind, or change the direction of winds around you to restrict the directions your scent can be carried to. Besides, it probably also serves as a base to all wind jutsu that involves blowing out air. On concluding his analysis, he sighed, thinking, I'll have to learn all these jutsu. Not for combat, but to improve my control over wind. That said, wind clone, levitation, control and pulling, these are excellent jutsu for pranking. I wonder if the ones who made these were pranksters or something. While thinking about it, an incredibly evil idea popped into Fujin's head. An idea that would have made the lives of Konoha citizens a living nightmare. He thought, I wonder what kind of shit Naruto would pull if he knew these 5 jutsu. He sucked as a student, maybe as a ninja too, but he was easily tier S in terms of pranks. Damn, I'm so tempted to teach him this stuff. I'd get enough content to laugh for a lifetime. Fujin had a laugh at that idea. Calming himself down and getting these distracting thoughts out of his mind, he started reading the rank D scrolls. After finishing them all, he concluded with a single thought, damn, wind release is extremely powerful. That thought wasn't due to the jutsu being overpowered, but instead due to the growth potential of the wind jutsu. Some of those jutsu, if mastered and used correctly, could end up becoming as good as rank B or even rank A jutsu. He then analyzed each jutsu. Dust cloud jutsu is basically just a smokescreen. It should work well with me being a sensor and not needing eyesight to track the enemy. Also, it is very simple, so if I have time it's worth learning. Slashing wind jutsu is the one Temari spammed in the Chunin exam. While it packs good power, it requires a fan to use. It's not really my preferred weapon. So I'll probably skip this one. Breakthrough jutsu is a powered-down version of Great Breakthrough Jutsu. No harm in learning it. I can later replace it with Great Breakthrough and then maybe with pressure damage. Gale Surge is a defensive jutsu. The user sends the air around the user in an outward direction. It could protect me from projectiles and could also disturb the enemy's rhythm. Though its range is too short at merely 3 meters, propelling winds is a movement technique. Small blasts of winds are released from the hands in order to help evade. This jutsu is pretty simple. I am not really a fan of it, however I have some ideas in the future that could require this jutsu as the base. Wind explosion jutsu seems very versatile. Chakra is infused into wind, to form into a ball like Rasengan, and it explodes on impact. Though it isn't as powerful as the Rasengan and only causes slight damage, it is a very interesting jutsu. I wonder if a combination of this jutsu and wind clone jutsu exists. It could make wind clones extremely lethal. Having analyzed all the jutsu, he had to make the tough final decision of deciding which jutsu to learn. He thought, all of these jutsu have good uses. However, will I be able to learn all of them? He was lost in his thoughts. Not able to reach a conclusion, he decided to calm himself a bit and analyzed further. As for how many of these jutsu I can learn, will depend on my speed of learning these jutsu. And just learning is rather pointless. I'll need to master them. For now, let's eliminate the ones I don't want to learn. It will be slashing wind jutsu. He sighed, this is the only one I don't want to learn. I want to learn all the others. Never mind, let's list them in the order of importance. Rank E jutsu are important to be able to get a better control of wind nature. So they are compulsory. Among the remaining, wind explosion jutsu would probably be the most useful considering its future potential. Next would be wind propelling jutsu. While it in itself ain't that good, however, if in the future I'm able to create small blasts of wind willingly around my body to propel myself, then that might become a deadly fighting style. Breakthrough jutsu would be next as it forms the basis of a few stronger jutsu. Also, it provides an AoE option. Gale Surge and Dust Cloud will be the last ones. Gale Surge provides defense in one direction, but it is very temporary. And Dust Cloud just provides covered. I suppose that's enough calculations. I still have a few years before I may have to fight. So let's just try these jutsu. Hopefully a year will be enough for it. Next year I would like to learn a few Earth Release jutsu and probably 1 or 2 Genjutsu. I suppose this year I should also start with Kenjutsu. Maybe a sword or 2. They go really well with Wind Release. Ending his train of thoughts, he read the scroll of Wind Release, Wind Clone Jutsu properly. After getting the basics down, he left the library and on arriving in a secluded mini-forest, started training for it. However, what happened really surprised him. It only took him 1 try to be able to do the Wind Clone Jutsu. He was left speechless by the ease of it. After calming himself, he analyzed, the jutsu is very similar to normal clone jutsu, and I have already learnt even shadow clones. Not to mention, my affinity is wind nature and I have already trained a lot to master this element. So I suppose it's no wonder I'm able to learn it in one try. Actually, if I compare it with Itachi, then this achievement isn't much worth mentioning. He was able to do Fireball Jutsu, a rank C jutsu, on his first try. So it shouldn't be that big of a deal. He comforted himself saying, "It's all right. This is the fruit of my hard work over the last 3 years." He spent the rest of the day testing the capabilities of his wind clone. Unlike shadow clones, it didn't transfer memories back, but it didn't require high amounts of chakra either. Since it used the air around it, Fujin guessed that this is the most chakra-friendly clone jutsu. In merely a few hours he managed to create 10 wind clones. It could do all the jutsu the main body could except shadow clone and would dispel on taking a hit. After experimenting, Fujin realized that in a head-on battle, wind clones would be more effective than shadow clones. Many times that day he had the thought of going back to the library and learning a not her jutsu. However, he didn't act on that urge as it might have attracted attention. He sighed thinking, I should have found a way to steal those scrolls. After being satisfied with his progress, he returned home. On the way, he had a peculiar thought about the jutsu he had learnt so far. He thought, of the 6 jutsu I know, 3 of them are clone jutsu. The next day, he read and learnt Gale jutsu. He had to first gather the chakra and then expel it from his mouth as a gust of wind. He was able to perform it properly after a few tries. The jutsu was really harmless. When he tried it on a tree, except some old leaves falling down, it didn't cause any harm to the tree at all. After an hour of practice, he could cover up the footsteps he left behind. Using the jutsu to change the direction of wind in a small area took a few hours to practice. Though he had no idea how successful or unsuccessful he was at covering up his scent. He decided to have an Inuzuka check it sometime in the future. The next day, he tried learning wind levitation jutsu. While he didn't get this one on his first try, he still managed to perform it correctly within 10 minutes. He was able to levitate a leaf in air at a height of about 5 meters. It took him half an hour to do the same with a pebble. By the end of the day, he could levitate stones with a diameter of 15 centimeters in at a height of 15 meters and maintain it for 78 seconds. He had read in the scroll that this jutsu could be used to lift a boulder over 100 meters in the sky. And he guessed that even that wasn't its limit. So in the future, he could keep practicing it to his heart's content. The next day he tried the projectile control jutsu. And he finally had a challenge. This jutsu needed really fine control over the wind. He created a wind clone and had it launch shurikens and tried to control it. After a few hours he managed to change the direction of the shuriken, but he couldn't control it. Since the shuriken spun, he felt that it made the jutsu harder and decided to experiment with a kunai instead. It decreased the difficulty considerably, and at the end of the day, he managed to maintain decent control on a thrown kunai. He practiced this jutsu for another 3 days in order to get a better hang of it. After these 4 days, he felt as if he had a better grasp on the wind element. The following day, he tried the wind retrieving jutsu. Attracting an object towards yourself by having the winds flow towards you proved to be a challenge. The wind flowing towards yourself was the first obstacle. The second was that if he was able to create a strong enough wind flow, he himself would be affected by it. That issue made Fujin wonder if he could create wind paths around himself to perform this jutsu. He left that thought for the future. It took him 3 days to learn this jutsu and be comfortable with it. He returned the Shadow Clone Scroll to Hiruzen after that.